Good morning. This is the Board of County Commissioners agenda setting. This is a regular meeting. It is Tuesday, November 21st, 2023. It is 9:21 a.m. The session is set to go until 12:15 today. This is a hybrid meeting. We're at 3000 Pacific Avenue, room 110 for public virtual attendance. You may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board, vice chair Time Minister in the boardroom, as well as Commissioner Gary Edwards. We have interim county manager Robin Campbell, as well as assistant county manager Rob Kelder. And today we will be having, starting our agenda off with a closed session per RCW 42.30.140 subsection 4A, collective bargaining sessions, or B, that portion of a meeting during which the governing body is planning or adopting the strategy or position to be taken by the governing body during the course of any collective bargaining contracts. And this will take approximately 15 minutes. Commissioner's action may follow. Okay, we are back from closed session. We're in closed session for RCW 42.30.140 subsection 4A, collective bargaining sessions, or B, that portion of a meeting during which the governing body is planning or adopting the strategy or position to be taken by the governing body during the course of any collective bargaining. Collective bargaining contracts, it is 9:40 and no commissioner's action follows this closed session. With that, we will move on to homeless strategy update. And we have Keely. Yes, okay. Good morning, Keely. Go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. Keely Marino with Public Health and Social Services, here with a brief update for you on what's going on in homeless response. So I'll just a quick update on the right-of-way initiative. So again, that's the Governor Inslee's initiative to offer meaningful housing offers to people living among and along the Washington Department of Transportation rights-of-way off of I-5. And Thurston County has been participating in this since June of 2022. So at this point, these camps have been completely cleared. Wheeler, the City Center, Slater Kenny, Pacific, and Lily Road, all of those camps are clear, and Washington Department of Transportation's language is hardened, which you may see giant boulders and rocks now alongside the I-5 on the rights of way. Nickerson Street is one of the last camps of the initial identified camps to be completely cleared, and that should be finished by the end in 2 weeks' time, by the end of November. That's on schedule with what was determined to be acceptable to both Thurston County and Commerce and Washington Department of Transportation. The residents that remain at Nickerson, which is the City of Olympia site, will be moving to Franz Anderson Tiny Homes and also to the New Hope Tiny Home Cottage Village underneath First Christian Church. So that's shaping up fairly well. And from that point, we believe there's a few more sites that aren't directly along the I-5 corridor, but have been identified through the right-of-way program to be potentially targeted for cleaning and housing moving forward. The point in time count for 2024 is coming up in January. The night of the count is Thursday, January 25th. Many of the activities will be occurring on Friday. There will be a Homeless Connect event at Sergio's place. There'll be some senior events and a number of other opportunities in the community for people experiencing homelessness to participate in that count. Part of that, the point in time count, is also a clothing or donation drive. So last year, Thurston County staff were incredibly generous with their donations. And we have, again, added a red tub or a red canister, if you will, at the atrium and at Public Health and Social Services for donations. So these donations can be new or gently used coats, hats, gloves, socks, things to keep people warm that we can distribute during the point in time count. Our team will be coming by and picking up the bins as they're filled, but that will be that has already begun. The red bin out at the atrium was put in place yesterday afternoon, and will be available for people to bring donations in up until the week of the point in time count. We also have a community donation drop-off time, which is down at the old fire hall in City of Olympia, and that is every Friday from 1 to 3 p.m. The 108, the old Olympia Fire Hall's address is 108 State Avenue Northwest. There will be staff there ready to collect any donations that anyone in the community would like to provide for the point in time count. So that's including warm clothes, jackets, gloves, hats, and scarves for adults and children, but particularly adult size medium through extra large are often most needed. So you can, on our website, we've got a QR code for people who are interested in donating and just want some more information, and that's on our website and also on our Facebook account called I Count Thurston. Following that, we do have 2 new reports that have been developed and and curated and published by Lisa Sparkman, along with our work as a team from our office, and that's the rental assistance survey report. So Lisa Sparkman gave you that report a couple of weeks ago on the results of the survey. The final report is published on our website, as is finally the 2023 full point in time count report has been published on our website as well. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menser?
Keely, you mentioned Franz Anderson Tiny Home in terms of the Nickerson folks, and then you said something at First Christian. I didn't quite catch what's going on there. Can you explain that?
Sure. During, I think in 2019, First Christian Church kind of took on an encampment that was at the time under the bridge, the 4th Avenue Bridge in downtown Olympia. And so some faith community members helped build structures or little cottages underneath the parking garage at First Christian. So there's about 5 or 6 of those cottages down there still. And Olympia Mutual Aid Partners is supporting that community, and they have been identified as another option for folks living in the rights of way to be offered if when they clear the camps. And that's called New Hope Community, I believe.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I was going to ask you, you had a name for it, just so I know what that means when I hear it. New Hope. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Keely. Keely, are we partnering with United Way this year for the point in time count?
We are indeed partnering with United Way. We've been meeting with their, I believe, development director to work on recruitment for volunteers. So we're providing them with job descriptions, and they'll be providing that service for us again, which is so helpful. And also they'll be putting together hygiene kits, as they have in the past, to distribute to those on the point in time count day and during those activities.
How many volunteers did we get last year?
I believe we had 60 to 70. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but it's around that, I believe.
Thank you so much. Okay. No more questions. We'll move on to Habitat Conservation Plan.
Morning, Commissioners. I'm Joshua Cummings, Director of Community Planning and Economic Development. Brett Burris is passing out the hot off the press updated numbers for the Habitat Conservation Plan review, program review, and I'll let him speak to the numbers. But I wanted to join this morning just to, I know you have a packed agenda today, but again, to reiterate, this is a shining example of protection of the natural habitat and allowing for continued economic development and building in our community. The numbers that Brett will present represent that balance that the Habitat Conservation Program has achieved. And it's one of those things that, you know, it's another permit, but these applicants during this period of time would be stuck. We're not in that interim gopher review season time, which now the gophers are dormant. So all of that before, any of these applications that would be coming in the previous path that we had, they would be completely stuck. And just knowing that now this year-round permit allows for continued application review, and then the money that goes into the applications and the mitigation fee is being utilized directly for purchasing and acquiring mitigation land to offset the development. So again, one of those quiet successes, but I think it's important to remember that every time you see this, this is an example of how we're implementing initiatives number 6 and number 7 in the strategic plan, which is protection of the natural environment and economic development and letting applications and building permits proceed. So it's important to just have that marker. So Brett, please proceed with the numbers.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Brett Burris with CPED. So for the HCP application submitted so far, it's 155 total. And of those 155, 4 have been withdrawn, and there are 25 in review right now. And application reviews complete, a total of 126. Of those 126 that are complete, fees paid and the certificate of occupancy, or COI, has issued 58. Properties that avoided or excluded, 31, and avoid and exclude means there is no impact. and application with payments pending, a total of 37. So there are 95 HCPR applications with fees paid or pending for a total of $819,856.11. As noted last month, the majority of that was based off a private development or a large subdivision, which totaled over $540,000.
I have a question on that, ma'am.
Go ahead, sir.
On that development, just so I can get some idea of, per home, what we're ending up with, about how many lots, were there to eventually have homes put on them?
The total subdivision itself is approximately 488 lots.
Okay,
And just as a note, if you look back to the commissioners when they provided CPED the direction back in 2018, the conversation that the board at that time said was, we want to make sure that we have it as inexpensive as possible for the folks doing a single development and that folks that are doing bigger, that it's proportional. And so that when you have a big developer that comes in and does 488 lots, it's equitable across the board. But if you're doing more development, you're impacting more land, you're gonna pay a bigger fee.
sure.
So that's exactly how this is playing out, just as the board envisioned it back in 2018.
But 488 lots, 540,000?
488 lots, and it's about the acreage impacted, not about the number of lots.
Acres impacted.
So the question was how many lots, but the mitigation fee is based on how many acres of habitat are impacted. And that's how the fee is calculated.
Okay, well, I mean, I would just make the point that if my math is right, that's like $1,200 a home, which is way below, frankly, what we were, not way below, but we were looking at, when we were running numbers, we were looking at 2,000 to 6,000 for a home, and that was sort of the average. And you're saying this is the expensive version, and it sounds like it's quite a bit lower.
Yes, there's two different things happening
Yeah.
here. Commissioner Edwards asked the number of lots. Those 488 are not all impacting mitigation land. And so the calculation is based on the area that's impacted. We can bring that number back to you, but there's apples and oranges.
So could it be a lot higher if all of the new lots were impacting
You got
more
it.
habitat?
Exactly.
Okay, I was just trying to figure that out, because it
Yeah.
actually seemed like,
Those two things, you can't get a
Quite a bit lower than-
calculation out of the number of lots in the.
Can I give a follow-up, ma'am?
Go ahead.
And I believe that the other mitigation sites, not this one, the 488, but the other mitigation sites as a general rule are more acres in the end because they're mostly 5-acre parcels, but it could be a 10 or a 20 that could be impacted.
The way,
So
sorry.
If you were going to try and apply that towards acreage, I guess.
The way that we've built the program, it's precision dedicated directly to the area of impact. So you might have a 5-acre lot, but you're only gonna build on a little piece of it. It's just that envelope that you're having to pay a mitigation fee of the building area. And so that, I mean, look at the properties that avoid or exclude that 31. So those are folks where they came in, they have to apply because they're in the habitat area. But our folks have said if you can move your development outside of the soils, then you don't have to pay any mitigation fee. Those are the avoid and exclude, so it's working,
It sounds like, just sounds like it's working pretty well.
yeah.
and just, I think I know the answer, but I just want to underline this for the public's benefit. Like, there's not any applicant who's come forward and they don't have a path forward because of some obstacle. I mean, I know we could get to a point where we don't have enough mitigation land in a certain subspecies, but we haven't gotten there yet, or,
Not related to the Habitat Conservation Program. We do have applicants that don't have paths forward sometimes.
yeah, but not based on pocket gopher
Correct,
and
Or
the
the-
other species that are covered by the plan.
that's right. Yep, and we have, I think, a positive working relationship with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, who is essentially our permitter. We're the permittee, so we've got to keep the permit and keep U.S. Fish pleased with what we're doing. And part of that is that we have the acquisition, the land acquired to send those permits out. They've been a big part of assisting in that process, and they've said, keep going. We understand that you've got lands acquired in process. You can continue to issue permits for all service areas.
Because you had, yeah, thank you, and you had, I think, laid out these type of analysis pre-HCP, and you know, there were delays and there were costs, but it was about 95%, if I remember correctly, of folks that could move forward in some fashion or other. It was about 5% that just were, you know, 5% of applicants just were stuck because of the ESA listing and no pathway.
Yeah.
That, and we've essentially cleared that to where there's a pathway for everyone.
Right, so there's two different, I think, tiers. There's like that 5%, like you're mentioning, that were completely stuck.
Right.
They had no place to avoid or minimize their property was completely encumbered. But then there was everybody else that was paused, and they could only do the interim review process, right? So you had like, if you had soil, it was the rest of that 95% of folks that had soil that would be paused from November to May. Because the review season was June to October. And so 5% would be completely stuck, 95% would be totally paused. Right now, they would be stuck until June, when the Gopher review season opened back up again.
Unless they could go to US Fish and Wildlife and do their own
Get their own
HCP,
permit.
which
Yep.
what, one person in the history of, or two?
Montevet got two.
Okay,
Yeah, two.
so,
And Jan has relayed to us that his perspective on the time and effort for that couple acre parcel was estimated by him at about $100,000. So we have, again, this process is working as the board envisioned, and we're happy to keep providing these updates as long as you would like them.
Okay. Thank you for this. This is very helpful to me. It's definitely helpful to see where the applications are coming through, especially like which areas are being impacted, because as I, especially looking at land and where we might need to purchase more in the
Yeah.
future, it's definitely good to know that.
Definitely,
Thank you.
thank you. Great, thanks, Commissioners.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to the review of the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for a meeting of November 21st, 2023. We'll call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. The Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards. There'll be approval of the Tuesday, November 21st, 2023 agenda. You will have a presentation from Superior Court, and this is National Adoption Day Proclamation.
Yes, good morning, Commissioner Robin Campbell, Interim Manager. And this first presentation item, the court is asking that the board proclaim November 16th as National Adoption Day. Even though it is a retroactive proclamation, the court appreciates the acknowledgement of this day. And we anticipate that Kristen Jensen will be here this afternoon.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
no,
Okay. Moving on to opportunity for the public to address the board and county manager's update.
Thank you. I have no update for this afternoon. I do want to once again let you know that we anticipate that members of the community will be here this afternoon to speak in favor of ranked choice voting and asking the board to adopt a resolution that encourages our state legislature to pass a bill that allows for ranked choice voting in Washington. We did check in with Deborah Munguia, who says that this time she's not aware of any legislation moving in the legislature, but we'll keep our eyes open for that.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
When they're asking about having the legislature do something, have they contemplated putting that on the ballot for the public to vote on? Is that part of the discussion, or has that been brought up by the group that's coming to see us today? You know the answer. I mean, you might not know the answer.
I
to
don't
that,
have
so.
an answer, but the resolution that they have drafted for your consideration makes, they call the bill Washington Voices, and they state that it would be a permissive bill that would allow for each jurisdiction to adopt ranked choice voting if they so choose. So it's not It does not talk about putting something on the ballot for the voters to decide.
It's allowing each local jurisdiction to decide. Like if we wanted to do it, we could say, well, we're only gonna do it if we put on the ballot and ask our voters. But we can't even do that now, apparently. So
Even though it looks like King County has done something.
Seattle or something,
Seattle,
what they said.
yeah.
I'm not sure how.
Well, there's the difference between, you know, the charter and the ability to
True.
affect those then.
Because Pierce County did it sometime back, somehow, is it?
They're also a charter.
Charter
Yeah,
County.
and that's why I'd say Charter County, yeah.
Okay. Consent items A through J, item 3A. Oh, did you have any questions?
No.
Sorry.
No.
Okay, consent items A through J. 3A is auditor's office approval of the voucher list.
This is your normal weekly voucher list approving payments that the county has made during the week of October 23rd. It is on consent. I'm unaware at this time of any items related to tenant improvement at the atrium on this voucher list.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Mensah? Okay, moving on to item 3B, Lake Management District Support.
This item, Commissioners, is to affirm the direction that the board provided the briefing on November 9th for the reassignment of support for lake management districts to environmental health from Public Works.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Mensah?
No.
Okay. Moving on to item 3C, Emergency Services Contract Extension for Electronic Patient Care Reporting.
This item is to renew a contract for software that is used across the county by EMS and emergency first responders from our fire agencies. And this will still need to correct the motion to be a 10% increase in accordance with county policy. But Ben is here to provide additional information.
I realized yesterday you may need just a little bit of context for this. This is a consent item, even though it's $96,000, because back in 2018, we went through an RFP process that was confirmed by the board for that exact dollar figure. And it was allowed at that time for the emergency services director to sign any amendments that wouldn't increase the value beyond 10%, or excuse me, $10,000 at the time. It, however, was not time limited, so what was included in the packet was a chain of, an email chain with the internal auditor in terms of, in perpetuity, renewing this contract without approaching the board for a dollar figure close to $100,000 a year. And so why you're seeing in the amendment now is a time-limited proposal. Moving forward as to when we need to reapproach the board, it was very abnormal and we could not foresee that the contract itself stayed flat for this length of time. And Amendment 5, so this is Amendment 6, just so you're aware, Amendment 5 actually reduced the liability that the county has by 15% until there are some corrections made to the software. And so actually, instead of going up, we went down by almost $14,000. And that's why to keep that Amendment 5 active and that discount in place, we needed to do a sixth amendment. And so this has been reviewed by the prosecuting attorney's office, the internal auditor, and they recommended moving forward with approaching the board in a time-limited fashion with the amendment. And hopefully that adds a little bit more context to it.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Mensah? No questions for me. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks.
Okay, item D from Human Resources, D, E, F, G, H are part of the collective bargaining agreements, and we had a closed session in regards to those this morning, so we'll go ahead and skip those. And we will be moving on to item 3I from Public Health and Social Services, which is a request for proposals to solicit a contractor for Thurston County Hazardous Waste Management Plan update.
Thank you. This is, as stated, a request to issue an RFP. The county will hire a contractor to update the hazardous waste management plan. The plan was last updated in 2014. This contract will be paid with a combination of a grant from the Department of Ecology and county tipping fees. And we have Kimberly, on the screen if you have any additional information.
I don't think I have anything else to add other than, yes, this was prior approved on October 17th, the grant funding that goes with this, that is.
Thank you.
Questions? Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
Are we gonna have a dollar amount included in there so the public kind of knows what's going on here?
It is a
thought that was-
request for proposals. We could
Oh,
certainly put
okay,
in
okay,
a,
no, excuse me, I recognize that now.
Okay. Questions? Okay, moving on to 3J, Public Works, request for proposals for solid waste stationary compactor replacement services.
thank you. As you heard yesterday, the current compactor at our facilities has been there since 2017. And we are having issues with maintaining that equipment. It is experiencing failures, which cause accumulations of waste, and that causes safety hazards. So this item is RFP to replace the compactor at the Waste and Recovery Center. And Jeff is on the screen, if you have any questions.
Jeff, anything you'd like to add?
I don't believe so. I think that basically covers it. I was just looking to get some proposals on a new replacement compactor to keep us up and running more regularly.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Do we have a backup compactor there now, Jeff?
We do not. Part of the idea on this particular request for proposals was when we purchase a new compactor, they'll be taking the current one out, doing basically doing some retrofitting and fixing it up. And the plan is to hold it back and save it for use in the future as a backup compactor when we do the work reconfiguration. So with that one, then we would have two compactors available.
And there's money in the tipping fee to cover this, I believe, right?
Lots of
We
money.
have money in our CIP, correct, for doing this.
Okay. Thank you, that's it for me.
Okay. Questions, Commissioner Menser?
Haven't we had a problem with this compactor like just a year and a half ago?
We've had
Numerous.
intermittent issues with it where it's gone down unexpectedly for a number of days, until they can get it repaired again. So yeah, it's happening. There's we've had downtimes, for example.
Okay, so we've just done repairs rather than trying to replace.
Correct. Like it's been down, like it was down 12 full days in 2022 and 17 full days so far in 2023. I mean, again, intermittently.
What is the cost estimate for something like this?
The estimate's going to be about between taking the one out and mothballing it and putting in a new one in is about 2.5 million.
And what is an expected lifespan of a new compactor?
It should be 10 plus years,
But that's
8
not,
to 10 years. I
that's
mean,
not what
depending on the amount of usage.
That's not what we're getting out of the one we have.
The one, yeah, it's when we purchased that back in 2017, our expectations for our waste flow were a lot lower than as it turned out. The waste quantity grew a lot more quickly than what was originally expected. So it's been getting a lot more wear and tear than was originally anticipated. So that's had a substantive effect on the compactor.
So we're buying a bigger one that's gonna
Yeah,
last
so
longer?
correct. So with this RFP, we're putting out, here's our, based upon current data and growth patterns, here's what we need this compactor to be able to manage and handle.
But you're saying that you believe we'll continue to get usage out of the old one based on having
Well,
it
that would be the,
or
if it was, it would be, it would receive much less wear and tear if it is as a backup unit, where it's not being as used as the primary and managing all of our volume. So the intent would be to basically go through, do some maintenance on it when it gets pulled out, and then when we do the work reconfiguration, reutilize it as a backup. So when you are down on the primary, the newer compactor for standard maintenance, you have something, because right now when the compactor is down for maintenance, we don't have that option. So
okay, so I think you answered my question as you were going, because I was going to ask about like how do you get one in or get one out? Like how easy, but it sounds like you're going to, in the work reconfiguration, you're going to have it set up to where it can serve as a backup. Because I can't imagine this is something you just slide one in and slide one out kind of thing.
and that is correct. It'll be taking the current one out and putting the other one in is going to be fairly involved.
Right.
So there will be a period of time when we will not have one available. The intent would be the lead time on getting, once we have somebody that we're going to purchase from, is going to be 6 to 9 months just lead time from that, having a contract to it being produced, which would put us in the best time period for installation, which is the winter time when we have less waste. So we can top load the waste and not run through the compactor, which doesn't work. You can't keep up with that in the summer, but when the waste is at a lower point, such as right now, you'd be able to get away with that for a week or two while they pull one out, put the other one in.
So ultimately, you have redundancy on the tipping floor. You'll have your primary compactor that you'll be using, but if it needs repairs or it's preventative maintenance, you can shift to your backup and be able to have a lot more flexibility and continuity in the operations.
Go ahead. You're good? Okay. Okay, thank you for that, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to department items. Items 4A from the auditor's office is to set a public hearing to change precinct boundaries.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. The item before you is to change precinct boundaries to comply with state law. And you had a briefing on this, and Tilly, and there's Lynn. Lynn and Tilly are both here to answer any questions you may have. As you heard yesterday, this impacts very few voters. I think you said 17. 16, yeah.
Okay, Lynn, Tilly, who's taking it?
Take it. Good morning, Commissioners. Again, yes, thank you to County Manager Campbell there. We did meet with you guys on November 8th to give you the brief on this proposed precinct maintenance that we're looking for in 2024. And again, based on the RCW and the statute that we have, our deadline for any changes is April 29th. However, we do have 3 elections the first quarter of next year. So the elections team, our timeline is very crunched, hence why we're before you this afternoon. These changes are necessary because of the adjustments to the city of Yelm precincts for their annexations. Again, let me just be clear, it involves 5 precincts with boundary line adjustments, adding 1 new precinct and precinct legal description, updating those 5 precincts for a total of 16 registered voters that's effective. That will be affected by this. Any questions?
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions. They do a great job on getting this figured out. It'll give a normal person a headache, I think.
Questions, Commissioner Menser? Okay, no questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Commissioners' items. Item 5A is to extend interlocal agreement for a public facilities district. And for this item, we do have a guest. We have Patty Belmont joining us. She's the Executive Director for the Hands-On Children Museum, as well as Bob Heck, who is on their board. And do you want to introduce this item,
Yes.
County Manager,
Yes,
and then we
thank
will
you.
move on?
So while we do have this item later on the agenda, perhaps we can cover it now. As we have been discussing, this item is to sign an interlocal agreement between the county and the cities of Olympia, Lacey, and Tumwater to extend the Public Facilities District an additional 15 years. So it was set up for a 25-year term, which was the extent possible under state law until an amendment to the law was passed that allows for an additional 15 years. The additional 15 years can only be used to fund existing public facilities that were funded under the original Public Facilities District. In Thurston County, those two facilities are the Hands-On Children's Museum and the Regional Athletic Center, also known as the RAC. The money would be used for continued maintenance and expansion of those two facilities. You asked some very specific questions. And what I have learned is that this opportunity, if the current public facility district were allowed to lapse, we could, of course, form new public facility districts, but what we will not be able to do again, either at the 25-year mark or the 40-year mark, is form a district for new facilities that could take advantage of the offset to the state sales tax. So this district, the money that we collect, is an offset to what is paid into the state. It's essentially free money to the county. And RCW 8214-390 governs this particular opportunity. And it is extended at the time it was enacted to counties that met current or very specific criteria that they did not have public facility districts that had constructed certain types of facilities. So now that we have, we would never be eligible again for this particular offset. Now, that does not mean we'll not be able to form other districts. For example, you're very interested in what are the opportunities for the brewery. Tumwater has some ideas. They'll come, not today, but they'll come forward and talk to you about their plans for that. But should the county form a district for the brewery, any amount that we collect under that district would not be an offset against the state sales tax. It would be an additional tax. You'd also asked who our representative is, and that person, I have his name here. Where is it? Of course, now the paper sticks together. Oh, here we go. Ken Parsons is the Thurston County representative. He was appointed in February of 2003, and his term expires in March of 2027. He's been reappointed 5 times, most recently in 2022. So we could certainly reach out to Mr. Parsons. I have not done so yet, but I'd be happy to do that if the board would like to hear from him. And you, let's see, what else did you ask? I should just stop and see if you have any questions that I have not answered yet.
I will pass it on to Patty and Bob because there might be some things that they might be able to answer to, and then I'll open it up for questions. So go ahead.
Hello, commissioners. Thank you so much for including us in this agenda setting meeting. We, as you just heard, our understanding, when this first came available in 2017 was that this could only be used for the existing projects. And that is an important benefit to our county. I don't know if you've received the information about the Children's Museum and our need for expansion. There are 460 children's museums in the nation. We have more visitors per square foot of space in this building than any of those 460 museums, which is a nice way of saying that we're really overcrowded. And we also have the benefit of having the adjacent land still available. And when we think about premier destinations around the nation, we know that someone in the way back was thinking about the future and setting aside those properties or making them, locking them up so that they could be developed on in the future. And so that's what we are trying to do. The brief summary of the bill states that that the proceeds can repay bonds, pay for expansion, pay for rehabilitation or improvement of the regional centers that were commenced before January 1, 2004. And it extends the local sales and use taxes from 25 years up to 40 years, assuming the bonds have not yet been retired. So we are hopeful. We've been talking to the other jurisdictions. Originally, the county was a major supporter of the RAC. And for both projects, the RAC gets about 3/4 of this money. The museum gets 1/4. Most of our revenue to operate the museum comes from earned sources. We're at 75% earned revenue. And but for on the expansion side, capital side, it's just really crucial that we pursue all possibilities for funding. That's harder to come by. And this is money that, as you heard, you would lose otherwise.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
I don't think I have questions, but I'd like the public to know that this is not gonna be an additional tax to the public. This money is a holdback, I think, as Robin explained, that we would lose if we don't do this. And as far as Mr. Parsons, I'm convinced, I'm satisfied he'll be watching this for us very well. So he's been on there a while, longtime banker.
Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
No, Robin covered the things that I was curious to know, so.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Patty, Bob, for joining us this morning and kind of giving us some background on, you know, your end of things and how that money will be used. There will be, I've talked with Patty and Bob, and there will be a work session later on in the future in January where maybe the Hands-On Children's Museum can come in and present and kind of give us an update on, you know, the wonderful work that they're doing and the services that they're providing to many of the children here in the community. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much. And just in closing, I want to make sure the commissioners know that of the 300,000 visitors that we see each year, about 100,000 come in on some sort of free or reduced fee programming. So we're not only a regional destination nationally, but we are also taking care of those who live in our community. So thank you very much for helping us make this possible.
Thank you. Okay, so with that said, are commissioners ready to proceed on item 5A this afternoon?
I am.
No. Okay, excellent. So then we'll go ahead and strike that off from the briefing public hearing decisions pending on today's agenda. So we'll move on to item 5B to set a public hearing for ordinance amending chapter 2.02 of Thurston County Code.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is a code change that makes technical changes in the board's meetings. And I had provided you with a red line and a clean version of the proposed amendments. This brings us into alignment with state law passed in 2023. And it mainly is changing to authorize the board to hold quarter meetings at alternate locations with 30-day notice, where you could not hold those as often under our current code. I had anticipated that Elizabeth would be here this morning, but she is not, so I'll do my best to answer any questions you may have, but it's my understanding that this is a technical change, and I've not heard from any of you about the draft that I handed out.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Just so the public knows, would there be any type of change for the public in their regular viewing of our meetings? We're still gonna televise and they're gonna have access. And
Absolutely.
all that stuff is staying the same.
All
It's
that,
just a technicality issue.
It is a technical issue that actually would benefit the public, because this allows you to more often go to alternate locations around the community and hold meetings actually in the community rather than here in the boardroom.
And I think it
Everything
allows
else.
you to talk about, I think you aren't as restricted on what you can talk about when you're at those meetings. That was an issue before.
The way the law was structured was that when you're in a alternate location, that at least part of your agenda has to be about something
About
going
that
on in
issue,
the location. But this also opens up your ability to have joint meetings with other jurisdictions, and it just it broadens the opportunity. But as you say, this requires a 30-day public notice when you're not going to be here. It absolutely is in line with the Open Public Meetings Act. The public will have continued availability to, be able to come and join, observe, participate, and we intend to continue to broadcast these meetings even though that is not required.
Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
I don't think I caught that in the draft, that it's broadening the requirement Commissioner Edwards referred to about, because I think it's actually, it's not, it's even, the law as I understand it currently is more restrictive than even you characterized, in the sense that the argument was, we can only talk about, if we're in Rochester, we can only talk about agenda items that are unique to that community, not just one. And is that being addressed in this code change?
I would defer to Elizabeth on that, who is not with us.
Can we see if Elizabeth can maybe join us later this morning, and we'll leave this item and maybe get back to it. That way we can get some questions addressed before this afternoon. So we'll come back to this item if that's okay with commissioners.
That's okay with me.
Okay, moving on to item 5C. This is an amendment to ordinance 16319 related to the Board of Health composition.
Commissioners, this amends the ordinance that the board passed, changing the composition of the Board of Health to update the effective date from January 1st to November 28th in recognition of the seating of some newly elected commissioners.
Thank you.
Can you remind us the projection for the process for the new community members?
Certainly. So we are in the process of recruiting, because RCW requires that there be a balance between the elected and non-elected individuals on the Board of Health. We have, because we are expanding the number of commissioners, we are now in the process of recruiting for additional community members. Those individuals are in the process of applying. That deadline should be coming up here shortly. I think we will have a number that won't trigger needing to do a subcommittee and call it down, unfortunately, from a dozen to 5 or so. I think we'll have the opportunity to interview all of them come our meeting in December, on December 12th. But what that will do is add an additional 2 community members that must fit one of the 3 required, we'll call it categories that the RCW requires.
Plus, we have a vacancy that we need to fill.
Plus, we have a vacancy, right. So in this case, we will be looking to appoint 3 community members from that recruitment process. That would be the additional 2 and the vacancy that has occurred of our current community members. And again, the recommendation would be coming from the Board of Health to the Board of County Commissioners for appointment on our December 15th agenda, so that everyone is seated for our January, come January.
Thank you. Hope it all works out.
Dominoes.
I think the deadline that you're referring to is actually tomorrow
For the applications, yeah, the 22nd.
I'm just curious if we're cutting ourselves too short. I mean, what do we do if we don't get adequate application, I guess? Have we got a few in?
I think it's about 5 or 6.
Pardon?
5 or 6.
Oh, we do have for those 3 positions?
Yes.
We gotta fill each bucket.
Jen Freiheit has been collecting them to do like the overview to figure out which ones they
To-
fall into.
Right, to make sure that we have each one. We, for certain, have to make sure that our vacating position is filled, but the ordinance allows the flexibility to have one or more from those three categories. And so they're going through the process of making sure that we check that box on all of them so that we don't have any vacancies in those categories. So they're doing the analysis. We should be good.
Thank you.
Have we come up with any, are we any closer to a clerk for that particular board activity?
So that is part of the board's budget conversation and approval in December. So there has been no recruitment initiated for that at this point in time,
Right.
but will be a 2024 activity.
And that's a program manager, not a
Right.
clerk.
Okay.
Just
Thank you.
your bunch. Okay. Okay. Moving on to community planning and economic development, item 6A, grant contract for Thurston County Working Lands Conservation Strategy.
The county has received a grant that will be used to contract actually, the county is receiving a grant. This item is to accept the grant. The grant will be used to contract for someone who will develop a plan that is in conjunction with the county's agriculture lands. The plan will protect working farms and forest lands and update programs such as the transfer and purchase of development rights, the open space tax incentive, conservation futures programs. And we have, Ashley's right here at the table. I'll allow her to say a little more about this.
So as I mentioned yesterday, this is really in concert with the long-term agriculture zoning update, where you heard a lot of feedback from the community that our land conservation incentive programs aren't necessarily working for our farmers and forest landowners. So this is really an effort funded through an EPA grant to work with a number of our partners here in Thurston County to update all those programs and hopefully find new funding solutions for compensation. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
this is that 385,000, that's coming from the state.
The state is a pass-through agency, so Department of Fish and Wildlife is the pass-through agency, but it's actually a federal EPA grant. The
And
National Estuary.
So that's not costing our local taxpayers
Nope.
money. And will that go through so that the conservation district itself can work with this group? I mean, I'm hoping they're gonna be included.
They are one of the partners, so they signed on to the application. So they'll be one of our partners, but they're actually all county land conservation programs that we're looking at updating, but understanding what programs already exist and filling those gaps as necessary.
Will the VSP process be included in here at all?
It'll be reflected, they will be involved as one of the stakeholders.
And maybe the university?
The WSU is another one of the partners.
That's it for me.
Thank you. Question, Commissioner Munzer?
So yesterday, I didn't really catch the connection that you just made today about the ag zoning and the compensation and the incentive programs. So is that, is that is that what this is completely gonna be geared toward, or is it something of a partial overlap? It'll do that plus something else. So when I hear working lands conservation strategy, that's 100% designed toward those programs that are connected to the ag zoning project.
Yep, it's really intended for working farm and forest lands. And so there will be a pretty significant overlap, I would say.
This would not preclude the board, however, from using, say, conservation future funds for existing programs that are not related to that.
Not at all. So anything that comes out of this would be additive. It wouldn't necessarily be pulling back on any of the investments that the county makes in land conservation.
And so what's gonna be the approach of utilizing this money? Is you're gonna hire someone to develop a plan? What's the methodology?
Yes, so it's mostly gonna be used for professional consultants. This is actually something that the Snohomish County has done very recently. So they sort of established this model. King County's also done a lot of work in this field. And so looking at a consultant that really understands how land conservation incentive programs work, what the innovative funding solutions are that are out there, they're a lot different than when we first established these programs. So there'll be a lot of technical analysis. We hope to have a prioritized list of what our conservation needs are in terms of alignment with all of the goals and policies in our plans. There will definitely be stakeholder involvement. And essentially you'll get a list of recommendations, and they're probably gonna be a mixture of code-related, administrative-related funding. And so one of the important pieces is having an implementation strategy. So it's not just a plan that sits on the shelf, but we have a roadmap.
And can you tick through, just for the public's benefit, the programs you're talking about when you talk about programs? Are we talking about transfer of development rights? Can you what else is in that bucket of programs?
Yeah, so you've got purchase of development rights, which is an outright purchase of development rights, similar to what the county did in the Nisqually Valley area back in the 1990s. So that was protection of farmland. And then you have transfer of development rights. And so that's sort of an open market or private market where you can transfer development rights from farmland to developers that may want to build at higher densities in our North County cities or even Grand Mound. You also have our open space tax incentive program, and we actually just made some updates to that, so that one might not get touched that much. And then of course you've got your conservation futures program, which can be used to not only protect farmland or forest land, but to protect a number of different types of land that have conservation benefits to county residents. And then there are just a lot of other programs that like Skagit County, Snohomish County, and King County and Whatcom use. And so really looking to our neighbors to the north to understand the programs that they have in place, how they fund those programs, and see if there are good matches for Thurston County.
So this money did we have to apply to get it? Is it coming out to every county? How is it working?
No, we put in a competitive application. I think only about half of the applications that got submitted were funded. And we had a coalition of 7 partners, including some of our North County jurisdictions, American Farmland Trust, WSU Extension, Partners for Fish and Wildlife, and Thurston Conservation District. So we put together a pretty robust application. We're very grateful to all those partners for signing on, and they'll be involved through the process. So they're going to be reviewing the RFP, they review the scope of work, and so they'll be at the table as we move forward.
Okay, I'm more excited about it than I was yesterday.
I'm really excited. I'm not feeling really well, so it's like masking my
Yeah.
excitement, but I'm really excited.
I don't think I really got. All right, thank you.
It's a really big, unique opportunity for the county.
Well, it helps us, I mean, if we're gonna move the ag zoning program forward, I think we need, from what
More
I'm hearing from
tools.
stakeholders, we really need this.
Yep,
And I
it's more
wasn't sure how
tools
we
in
were-
the toolbox. These are the incentive tools. And so, yep, just building up the toolbox for the county.
Thank you, Ashley. Yeah, no, and thank you, Commissioner Menzer, for those follow-up questions. I kind of missed that piece yesterday as well when we reviewed the agenda, so it is very exciting that we're getting this and, okay. Awesome, thank you. Okay, moving on to information technology, item 7A, purchase of replacement network switches.
Yes, we have Sherry here with us for the next 5 items. First item is regarding replacement network switches. And as you heard yesterday, we are replacing the last of our Cisco switches, and Sherry can tell you more about what that means.
So Cisco was the initial switches, I guess, that they had throughout the county, and they made a decision a while ago to switch to the Fortinet. And this is the last of the Cisco, which means we'll also be able to retire our Cisco maintenance contract. This is in the plan. It's been in the plan for quite a while, and it's kind of exciting to see it be almost completed.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions. Thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
It's too, I'm not gonna get into it, so it's pretty complicated.
I don't know.
This is where you trust staff.
Okay, and then item 7B, mobile assessor purchase.
Yes, this and the next 2 items are regarding software that the assessor's office needs to be able to conduct their business. This first item for, let's see, what's mobile assessor is software that enables the assessor's staff to complete their work in the field, which will streamline their work and create efficiencies in what they do. And we have both Sherry and the assessor to fill in on that.
So the mobile assessor was something that the assessor's office has pursued, and it's an opportunity to replace, like I mentioned yesterday, their very expensive tablets, the ones that they use out in the field today, with a better option, a less expensive option, the iPads. In addition, go ahead, you say?
No,
Okay.
I'll let you finish.
Okay. In addition, it's going to give them the ability to be more efficient in the way that they enter the results of their tax assessments.
True. Commissioners and Commissioner-elect, good morning, and thank you for having this on the agenda. I mostly want to thank some folks. I want to thank Robin and the financial staff, the county auditor. I want to thank each of you for recognizing the importance of this and hearing us repeat at a few different forums through the process, how vital it is to our future. And I also want to thank Sherry's and her staff for the can-do approach. All of that combined helped us realize that this was a sole source contractor, so we didn't need to do an RFP, which saved labor. We found that we could fund the contract purchase out of the software, large software replacement fund, not using new general fund dollars. We found that we could fund the monthly fee through the biennium with REIT dollars. And then, because the tablets are less expensive and far less expensive, we actually are gonna see a decrease in our interfund rates by virtue of shifting from the tough pads to the iPad, which is the vehicle for this service in the field. And our efficiencies come from a couple different places here. One is that currently we operate by uploading data to the tablets, and then we go into the field and we work with that data, and then we need to download it. And I may have the upload and download reversed, as I often do, but the point is that if you run out, if you work through what you have on the tablet and you're in the middle of a day, then you have to drive back to the office, do an upload, and then drive back out to the field, and we can't get that time back. It's a loss of productivity. This works off the cloud, and so we don't have that loss of productivity. Secondly, in training and in operation, we're using a very old system, right? We were one of the first counties to get mass appraisal software, and so it's very clunky, and the pull downs and the drop downs are so complicated and counterintuitive that it takes a lot of time to train new staff, and then there's a loss of accuracy because of how clunky it is. This actually exists between that software and the user, and it's much more elegant and much more easy to train. And so we'll save in the future, we'll save training time, and we'll have greater accuracy in not missing steps in the data that we collect in the field. And then the final piece of this is that generally when you get new software and you do a major migration, and to us this is a major migration, it impacts a lot of places in the county. In this instance, the vendor and our staff will be able to house the entire migration in staff. So it will not involve IT except for password access and some connectivity between the cloud for security, but that's a very, very minor impact outside our office. And so we're under a lot of stress staffing wise, but we will be able to get this done with the vendor's timeline in time for the next appraisal cycle. That is October of next year through end of May of next year. That's when we will see the benefit. We won't see any benefit this year. We will see added workload this year to be ready and to be able to go live and have everyone trained for that next cycle. And so the timing is critical, which is part of the reason for the thank you and the presentation, because the contract says that from the time that the contract is signed, the contractor must get us in line and begin working with us within 120 days, provided that they receive payment within 30 days, or else that 120 days moves. And so I know that there's, with your approval in the upcoming live session, I know that IT is ready to sign the contract. We've gone through the whole process, and that the money is there, and so we'll meet those deadlines, and we're very grateful for the role that everyone played in that, vital for our future. So thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
I don't have any questions. I might just comment that seeing you folks working together and knowing that budgets are tight, how stretched you are and looking for efficiencies. Thank you.
So my lead on this project, Dan Janega, should be the hero here on this thing. In our discussion preparing for the very large software migration, we're beginning to meet with vendors, and what Dan discovered is that this module, part of the overall migration that will occur 3-4 years out when we're done with the Munis migration and all the stuff that's taking the time now, this is a module to that carries with it its own migration and its own training. And so our ability to migrate and train now means that the workload then will be reduced, and also buying this now means that the cost then will be reduced. And so Dan Janega is deserving of an award. So I very much appreciate your discovery and also really being our lead, and he'll be our lead through migration and training. So thank you, Commissioner.
Great, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Mensah? I do have a question, and that's in regards to the cloud storage. And so I'm wondering, is there going to be maintenance costs with like the upkeep of cloud storage, or is that something the assessor you already have, and the team just couldn't access it because of the tablets in the field, and it's just?
So there's not a storage, particularly a long-term storage. Basically, where the data is going through the cloud to the tablets, and then from the tablets to the cloud through security back into our system. And so it's unlike the issue with the video cameras and all that. It doesn't carry that cost. But the cost of utilizing the cloud for that purpose is in the annual fee.
Okay.
Did I nail that?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a
Hey, I'm
synchronization
learning.
that happens.
I'm
Yeah.
learning.
A daily synchronization, so.
You were like going through that and I saw Sherry.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, and then
C.
9C is the Sigma maintenance.
Right, and 9B is the Ascend maintenance, and as you heard Sherry say yesterday, you usually see these as a combined packet, but these are extensions of 5-year agreements for the maintenance of Sigma and Ascend, which again are essential software for the business of the assessor and the treasurer.
Yeah, this is just a 1-year maintenance, but ever since I've had the opportunity of bringing all of my maintenance contracts to you guys for approval, I've added up to 5 years so that I don't have to come visit you every single year for these maintenance extensions. So each of these are just for 1 year of Ascend and maintenance extension of the current licensing.
Just for the commissioner-elect's benefit, software maintenance is one of our favorites.
That's why I get to come here so often. But I got this little loophole in here that I say for up to 5 years, so I don't have to come back quite as much.
Okay, questions? No? Moving on to item E, DHS State and Local Cybersecurity Grant Program.
So the county has received a grant that is specifically to contract with Varonis for the provision of cybersecurity for our county system.
So a lot of the effort we put into our cybersecurity has to do with hardening our network. And this is in addition to tracking the data. Our new systems are becoming more and more complex, and end users don't necessarily know that they're providing access to things, data that perhaps they shouldn't. And this will help us manage that. In addition, it helps us manage and identify areas in the cloud that perhaps our data is being exposed accidentally. Nothing malicious is happening. It's just a lack of user understanding. It also helps us manage our Active Directory. So when people have access to accounts that they no longer need, it'll give us a report. People move from office to office, and it's possible that their access from their old office isn't removed in a timely manner. And this will help us manage that as well by identifying, you know, Sherry, you've had access to this for 3 years and you've never used it. So perhaps you need to look at it and figure out if you really need it or not.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
This is gonna help us with our risk pool, I think, as well, right?
Absolutely.
So
100%.
I think that's worth mentioning because that is a big concern. So,
Questions?
Is this something that's kind of catching us up to where we ought to be with something, or is this some kind of advance, like some new getting out in front of the curve kind of thing, or
Well,
just?
Varonis has been around for a long time, and I've used it at prior agencies, but I think at the county, the focus initially was on the network and hardening access to the network, and we've done a great job of that. We're pretty solid on the outside, but so this is like an additional step that we can take to protect our data, not just access to our network, but this is actually the data.
Getting us to where do we really ought to be.
Well, where we ought to be, yes.
And DHS, so it's a state,
Department of Homeland Security,
okay. So it's a federal.
it is.
Federal grant, yeah.
That's awesome. Should I tell Sherry about the AI story?
Oh.
Commissioner? I thought about you, Sherry. I just want you to say, me and Robin and Jamie, we went to the AI
session at WASAC, and someone told the story of a commissioner in another state who wanted to answer his constituents on a quicker basis, so he dumped his whole inbox into ChatGPT. And
Oh, no.
and I was just like, I'm gonna text Sherry and tell her I'm
At
gonna
least we didn't do this.
Oh, no.
They said they have no idea where all his data went. It's out there in the wild somewhere.
That is so scary. That's why I have such a angsty feeling about AI for sure. We don't know what we're doing yet, so.
So thought about you.
That's good.
Commissioner Edwards, don't do that.
You don't need to worry about that.
Remember on April 1st, send a message then.
Oops.
Oops. Okay, thank you, Sharon.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Public Health and Social Services, item 8A, interlocal agreement.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. If we could, though, we could go back to item 5B regarding the meetings ordinance. Elizabeth has joined us for that topic. So, Elizabeth, I'm going to ask that you unmute and walk the board through the changes to their meeting ordinance.
Of course. Good morning, Commissioners. This particular ordinance was prompted by some legislation that occurred in 2023, and it's actually a very small piece of legislation, and it only it is allowing the county to have more flexibility with holding regular meetings out in the community. So that's what prompted the change or this new draft to update our own meeting code. And while I was reviewing our current meeting code, I also noticed that there is some basic cleanup and organization that I thought would be helpful. The first cleanup was simply clarifying that the meeting room was now where you meet is at the atrium. So that was the first, that was one of the changes. But the other changes had to do with the regular meeting structures, making sure that all of our regular meetings are under one section. So it's very clear that we're in a regular meeting, because that allows you a lot more discretion. And sometimes people get confused on whether they're in a regular meeting or a special meeting. So I just wanted to continue to clean up and organize all regular meetings under one section, and then separate out and then go to the special meetings. The substantive change that has occurred in this particular draft is giving you flexibility to have regular meetings outside the community. So that's the overall framework and why this particular draft is in front of you. Is there any particular question I can address?
Commissioner Edwards had suggested that there might have been a change about what we can do at the meetings that were outside of the community. I guess maybe that's what you're saying. If it's a regular meeting, we're not limited to topics that are relevant to that place that we're having the meeting at.
Correct.
Okay, so that's why. So it's more a clarification of when we're in regular meeting versus a special meeting.
Correct. And then there are some when you are out in the community, having a regular meeting out in the community, you still have to do 30, even though it's a regular meeting, you still have to do 30 days notice. That's the one distinction between the regular meetings you have in the county seat. But that's always been there. But I just wanted to clarify that that's one distinction between the regular meetings you're holding in your office, right, or your boardroom right now, and in the community. You still have the opportunity to amend your agendas and add things to your agenda. They're not limited to a specific topic. And you do not have to do, when you have a joint meeting with another county, there's one other thing you have to do, even though it's a regular meeting. The notice you need to provide is the same notice that needs to go out for special meetings. So they're all very technical changes, but the big picture is it's giving you more flexibility to do business with your constituents.
All right, I'm still gonna come back and ask you before we try to do one of these to make sure we got it right. Even though it might be more clear, still a lot of little subtleties.
Okay.
All right, so are we good for this item this afternoon?
I'm good.
Excellent. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, moving to Public Health and Social Services, item 8A, interlocal agreement for Grants Anderson Permanent Supportive Housing.
Yes, thank you. As you heard yesterday, this interlocal agreement is between the county and the cities of Lacey, Olympia, and Tumwater, where all of the jurisdictions are contributing toward the purchase of additional permanent supportive housing. The county is putting in $3.5 million in ARPA funds that have been specifically earmarked for this project. And we have Tom here to answer any additional questions that you may have.
Thank you, Tom. Anything you would like to add?
Not at this time, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No, I think we've covered it. Thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menser?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I answered my questions yesterday.
Okay, moving on to Public Works, item 9A, resolution to apply for a grant from the Brian Abbott Fish Barrier Removal Board for an unnamed tributary to Fry Cove at 61st Avenue Northwest.
This is the approval of an application for a grant. Whereas most grant applications can move forward with the permission of the county manager, the Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office is one of the few grantors that requires the approval of the county's legislative body to apply for the grant. So this approves the county to make that application, and then hopefully we will be successful at getting 2.3 million that would be used toward the removal of the fish barrier at Fry Cove. And we have Elena here to answer any questions that you may have.
Elena, go ahead.
I believe that the county manager summed it up perfectly, so I'm open to any questions.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
I have no questions. I just hope you can get it, maybe a little more. Thank you.
Questions? No questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our public hearings for this afternoon, starting with the first one, public hearing to consider revising the speed limit schedule for various county roads.
We have Becky here to answer any questions you may have about this item, which will adjust the speed limits on 8 county roads and also removes from the Thurston County speed limit schedule 57 roads or portions of roads that the county no longer owns or is responsible for. This public hearing, you see only one action this afternoon, and that is to move to close the public hearing, but if you so choose, you could add a motion to adopt the changes that are proposed.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
I'm good.
Questions, Commissioner Menser? No questions for me. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, item B is from Community Planning and Economic Development, a public hearing for code change to align capital improvement program and budget process.
Yes, thank you for being here, Andrew. This item is to streamline the capital improvement program, or the CIP, any changes that the board should want to make mid-year. Under normal process, the CIP is changed once every year along with the adoption of the budget. The law does allow that the CIP be updated with budget changes more than once per year. And what we have done in the past is that any proposed changes go through the Planning Commission. We would like to streamline that process. This new process would not go through the Planning Commission. However, it would still go for review by the state, and it would enable the board to take quicker action when we've received unanticipated money or when opportunities come up that we could never have expected at the time that the CIP was enacted. So 2 examples of that were we did an amendment for the purchase of the Mottman property. We did not know about that property going on the market. And that was a time-sensitive thing that we had to amend the CIP to accommodate. Another item is the state money that we were supposed to receive for the Highway 507 roundabout. We could never have anticipated that the state would put money in their capital budget, but they did. And it was under a tight timeline, so we had to change our TIP and our CIP to be able to accept the funds. So you have 2 options before you. One would be for any unanticipated change. The second option is to only allow it when we have unanticipated external money coming into the county. So 2 options before you.
Andrew, anything you'd like to add?
No, that was an excellent summary and examples.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
That $3 million we got from Senator Murray, wouldn't that fall into that type of a category or no?
It would if we did not have something on the CIP that it would
Yeah.
fit.
Okay.
Questions, Commissioner Munson? Okay, thank you, Andrew. Okay, item C and D from Public Health and Social Services, and if they can be covered together. Housing and Urban Development Home Art Plan Amendment and public hearing for the 2022 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report.
So these are public hearings that are required under federal rules for the county to be able to accept and use federal funding. The first is regarding the funding the county received under the Home American Rescue Plan Act allocation plan. And the second is funding that the board received under the this is the CDBG and the home funding. Both plans require public hearings of the plans and the performance under the plans. And Tom can add additional details or answer your questions.
Thank you. Tom, anything you would like to add on any of those 2 public hearings?
Not at this time, but happy to answer questions.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions at this time.
Questions, Commissioner Munson? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
One down.
One down. Okay, let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break, and then we'll be back with the next agenda.
Okay, we are back from break. It is 11:22, and we are picking up with our draft agenda for our meeting of November 28th. We'll call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. The Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Vice Chair Menser. Then there is the approval of the Tuesday, November 28th, 2023 agenda. Next is an opportunity for the public to address the board and county manager's update.
No update at this time.
I believe there should be a welcoming for the two new
Of course.
commissioners who will be joining us at that meeting.
Thank you for that suggestion, of course.
Any questions? Okay, moving on to consent items A through H. Item 3A is approval of the voucher list.
This is the standard voucher list. I have not reviewed this list yet. When I do, if there are any items related to the atrium, we will move it off of consent. Until then, it is what it is.
Okay. Questions? Okay, moving on to item 3B, Community Planning and Economic Development. Interlocal agreement with City of Yelm for permit processing of a stormwater pond associated with a coffee stand.
So this is an agreement with the City of Yelm. It is related to one parcel that is split. The parcel has, part of the property is within the City of Yelm, part of the property is within Thurston County. Regarding the development of the property, the owner intends to do all of the development within Yelm. So thank you, Josh. So the proposal here is to allow the City of Yelm to conduct the permit process, including the protection of the stormwater pond, and the county would just not have to do anything related to this. So I'm gonna turn it over to Josh and Brett to fill in the gaps and answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. So this is a request by the City of Yelm. As Interim County Manager mentioned, this request is just to have all the permitting done on this parcel through the City of Yelm. There's not a big impact or development on the county part of it. It is literally a stormwater facility that they're going to accommodate for the proposed drive-through coffee stand.
And the attachment that I provided is in your packets as well, just kind of calls out a little more clearly where the retention pond is. You can see kind of that pink is Yelm and the kind of green-gray is Thurston County. So we do this in the past. It does require board approval to enter into an ILA with the city, and this is just that item.
Thank you. Commissioner-elect Klaus, I will let you ask questions for this section since this is an agenda that you will be voting on next week. So do you have any questions on this item? No questions. Commissioner Edwards?
No, I don't have, I'm glad to see this moving forward. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Menser?
Nope.
Okay. Moving on to item, thank you, 3C, Community Planning and Economic Development. This is review of request for plat alteration.
Yes, this item, I understand it correctly, extends the boundaries of a parcel that is within a plat in question. This change provides flexibility for the landowner to site structures on the property. There is information provided by the landowners regarding information that they were given from CPED. This change enables them to do what they were told they'd be able to do, basically.
Thank you. Yes, this is a request from a property owner to amend what's called the Champion Estates plat. The plat alteration is to remove the identified boundaries on Lot 12 labeled as building site for Lot 12. If approved by the Board of County Commissioners, the property will remain in the resource parcel status. The resource parcel will continue to allow for forestry and one single-family resident and accessory structures. It will comply with the plat requirements. Any further development will be reviewed to meet all zoning, building, and other departmental requirements. Following RCW 58-17-215, the requirement is for an applicant is to provide a majority of votes of approval throughout the development. The property owner did provide 9 of the 12, all in favor, which is also in your packet. So if approved again by the board, it'll still meet the requirements of the plat condition. It's just the location of where those are at would be different.
And I believe it's now 10 of the 12, and the other 12 is the applicant. So essentially, out of the 12 parcels, 11 folks are in favor of this request, which is the process to have it go forward to the Board of County Commissioners, that the folks that are living there are okay with this. We didn't receive any information, yea or nay, from that outlying parcel, so we presume that they have no opinion one way or the other.
Thank you. We do have the property owner here as well. He'll wave. There you go. If we have any questions for them. Commissioner-elect Klaus, any questions on this item?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner
Nope, I
Edwards?
think get her done. Sounds good.
Commissioner Menser? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Okay, moving on to community planning and economic development, hearing examiner pro tem RFP.
The current hearings examiner pro tem has decided to resign this position. And so this item is permission to issue an RFP to find someone new to fill the position.
Who's that?
That is Judge Shelton. He will be working for Pierce County as an employee, so he'll no longer be able to contract with us as our pro temp. And I do have one typo. In the AIS, we're expecting to contract with a pro temp hearing examiner through the end of 2025 with a one-year extension to the end of 2026. And this would then, current contract would then coincide with our current hearing examiner contract. We'd run our normal RFP process at that time. So.
Okay, questions? Commissioner-elect Klaus?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, Jeremy says we need to do this, right?
Commissioner Menser?
What do we have? Like, we have commissioner, we have hearings examiner Rice, and then what, one pro tem, or do we have a bank of pro tems, or how does that work?
We currently only have one pro tem, and we're able to accomplish our hearing needs through a hearing examiner Rice and the pro tem. Usually the pro tem will step in when we have more hearings than Rice can handle, or maybe when she's unavailable.
And you know, like, I'm just putting you on the spot, but do you happen to know like the numbers of cases that Rice hears versus the pro tem in a given year, like roughly?
I don't have those at my fingertips, but I can get them to you. I do know around the state there's only about 20 to 25 hearing examiners. So it's an area of law that there aren't as many, and I know they're trying to actively recruit more attorneys to enter into that area, that work area. And I also understand there's a couple other local jurisdictions like Olympia that are also looking for pro tem hearing examiners. They are having a difficult time finding folks to apply for that, so we'll see how we do on this RFP. If we don't get any proposals, then we'll of course work to extend that, and of course be working on recruiting for that. So there actually is a state association of hearing examiners that will be posting the position on, and I'll talk to their chair on that. So try to drum up some business, and I've been checking with hearing examiner Rice and also Judge Shelton on possibilities. So.
Okay, I'm good, thanks.
Not a bad retirement job, Commissioner Menser. Okay, moving on. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
To Human Resources, item E, adoption of non-represented salaries effective December 1st, 2023.
Yes, we had a briefing, not last week, but the week before, regarding compensation for non-represented employees. We shared with you a plan to structure longevity bonuses that would address partially parity with union members who are receiving back pay under the contracts. So Tara's here to answer any questions that you may have, fill in any gaps.
So the resolution, good morning, Commissioners. The resolution before you today is just to update the salary charts so that they align with the union charts. And I anticipate to have a resolution regarding the longevity to you next week.
Okay.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner-elect Klaus?
No questions.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Nope, sounds like a good plan.
Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
No.
Okay, no questions for me. Thank you. Okay, moving on to public defense. Item F is the resolution establishing positions 24R01655 and 24R01656 in the Thurston County Pay and Classification Pay Plan, and this is for Defense Attorney 2 and Paralegal 1.
Thank you, Commissioner. You may recall that the board approved acceptance of a grant from the state of Washington that is specifically to be used to provide relief to citizens who are engaged in the legal system, who have legal financial obligation debt, assist them with expunging or vacating criminal records and representing them in civil forfeiture hearings. These two positions are paid 100% by the grant that we're receiving. Since we already have access to the funding, we are requesting that these positions are established now.
Thank you. And we have Director O'Connor. Anything you would like to add?
Oh, good morning, Commissioners. Just here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner-elect Klaus?
No questions.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No, I think Patrick did a good job explaining this sometime back of the need. I'm good, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menzer? No. Okay. Moving to item G from the Sheriff's Office, a resolution reclassifying position 10R00364 from a Sheriff's Office System Administrator to a Financial Operations Assistant.
This item is a reclassification of a position within the Sheriff's Office. Reviewing their needs, the Sheriff has determined that there is a greater need for a Financial Operations Assistant than a Systems Administrator. And we have the Under Sheriff here to answer any questions that you may have.
Under Sheriff
Chief Carter as
Chief
well.
Carter. Okay. Anything you would like to add on this matter?
No, I don't have anything to add to it.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Nope, sounds like it's get her done.
Questions, Commissioner Mixer?
Yeah, I will like to ask the county manager. So we had a whole series of reclass requests during the budget process. We tried to set some sort of criteria to deal with them. And then we got objections to that, and we tried to deal with that in a different way, and then we got objections to that, and then we basically just said, we're not doing the reclasses in this cycle. So I'm just wondering, how does this fit into that whole conundrum that we were wrestling with?
So I would say that given the board's decision to say no to all reclasses at this time and those connected with the budget, my proposal to the board is to hold on all reclasses until January 1, and then go back to the county's normal reclassification process, which is for offices and departments to work with human resources, have desk audits or other analysis on the need of the position and the change. And then once HR and the office or department come to an agreement, HR brings those to the board. And as long as the office or department is willing to absorb the cost, the board generally approves reclassifications through that process. I have not had an opportunity to speak to the undersheriff. So he may be able to provide additional information on why this item is time sensitive. But if it is not, then I would recommend to you that this be delayed along with all the other reclassifications that the board has said no to.
And just to be clear, there wasn't any reclass, frankly, that I recall that I didn't support. I didn't think would make sense, but it was just a matter of dealing with the budget and all the impacts and so many, the volume of requests and trying to be fair in some way, so, but.
The only thing that makes it time sensitive is that this position, we haven't had an increase in the financial operations for over 19 years. And we've added, I think it was over 50 plus employees since that time, or even more than that. So it's to help out our financial operations. They're drowning right now, and this was a way of, okay, we can shift this because IT is handling our needs that we need. So let's use this position to increase here so we can help out our financials people, so.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
I guess my position as far as being more concerned that we go ahead and step out of line, if you want to call it, is because now because of the recent voter approval of the law enforcement issue, we have absolutely no concern budgetarily to move ahead on something like this, where before in this position especially, we did have that concern. So that's kind of why I'm willing to get it done, because I know that the position is overloaded over there, and it has been for a while,
So
that
this,
being the difference,
okay.
I guess.
So this position is currently vacant, correct?
Correct.
And I had a follow-up to that and it kind of just blanked right now. I apologize. Let's see. So this was the first one and the budget got moved over to IT. This was the second one that was vacant. In the budget process, we did, under the public safety tax, add a financial operations assistant. So is this going to be a third one to that, or how is that going to work out?
Yeah, I believe it is. It's because we've spaced it out how we're looking at what our future needs are, and so.
And the ability for us to apply to grants and receive the grants and the amount of work to put into the maintenance of the grants and the reporting, that's another reason why we're asking for this conversion.
Is there so going to Commissioner Edwards' point, is there would the funding impact, whatever it is, be not a general fund impact? Because we have public safety, I mean, I don't understand how that works.
No.
That might be a basis to treat it differently, but I'm trying to.
This is a general fund position, it's my understanding, so it's not as though this was going to shift to the new tax and other reclassifications that the board has put on hold, if you will, were from other funding sources or had great needs that have been waiting for a while.
And what is the funding impact or the financial impact of the reclass? Do you guys have that?
The IT position, I don't have the numbers in front of me, I'm sorry, and Chief Thompson wasn't available today. But it is a higher salary than the financial operations, so this new position, financial, would be less than what the IT position.
I think it was right around $48,000 a year,
Less.
less.
No, oh yeah.
48,000 a year less.
From systems administrator to financial operations assistant, approximately.
So going back to the timing issue, right, as we're approaching the end of the year and having this requested now versus January 1st, right? Like those couple of months, is it a recruiting issue that you're trying to, like, what is it exactly, the problem that you're trying to solve in bringing this now versus January 1st?
the problems we're trying to solve is just that we've had grants come available, we've been told about grants and things, and we're just kind of on hold, not applying for anything anymore. We just don't have the ability to take care of and all the strings are attached to so many grants. We've had to just not look at that stuff right now. I mean, yeah, we're talking, you know, a month and a half. I mean, that's probably not gonna be a huge deal. We're still gonna have to create a list, recruit and get out there, so. But it is definitely a need that we have within the agency.
If you're talking about a need though, and it's less money, like that's something I think we could justify, because that, I don't remember any of the other requests being cost reductions.
Yeah.
And we're
No,
struggling.
all the rest of them were increases,
Yeah,
except
so
for the
that-
one in central services.
That would be a basis for me to say, let's do it.
Okay, well then maybe I don't need to make any additional arguments because I'm there. Okay, but if need be, I mean, I see a lot of work planning and a lot of things that are gonna come into play here now that we know we've got this upcoming revenue source. That's kind of where I'm coming from, so.
Okay. And then, so this will be one financial operations, and then just to clarify, the second one that got approved through the public safety tax preliminary through the budget process, that one is still a go for the sheriff's office. That's a position that is still wanted.
And I believe I'd have to look at the chart. I think that's our third or second or third phase that we actually get to that.
Okay.
Actually, there is a finance position that's approved effective in January.
Phase one.
And then
Phase one, yeah.
an additional one about a year out.
So is that one
Yeah, that one
will still be a go?
for.
Okay.
Yeah, I can confirm that the salary range, the top of the salary range for a office systems administrator is $9,978 a month. The top of the range for the financial operations assistants is $5,506 a month. So this is a substantial savings.
If that's what you guys need. Save
Yeah.
some money.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yep. Okay, 3H, sorry. Sheriff, you guys are still on the.
Stick around.
Request for proposal issuance awarding of contract for mental health services for law enforcement staff.
This would be an RFP to obtain contracted services to provide mental health for law enforcement staff, as it says. And I would turn this over to the undersheriff to tell the board more about it.
I'll let Chief Carter speak to this one.
So we're just gonna go out for RFP for mental health services for our deputies, specifically after critical incident debriefs, one-on-one counseling, ride-alongs, training, and just awareness and around critical stress response, and normalization around stress response. We created a pilot project at the beginning of this year for 6 months through Criminal Justice Training Commission grant, and it was wildly successful, high utilization, and risk is saying that our numbers, deputies per capita going out on long-term injury and disability at PTSD are very low according to, in comparison with state numbers. And it's been a great program, and I see it being a great transition in how we approach law enforcement.
Thank you.
We budgeted this, right? I remember. So this is just, you guys, this is
Plan to
just
RFP.
carrying out the
Just
thing
the
that
request
we
for
already approved in the
Yes.
budget. Just to remind you guys.
Yeah, but we're kind of getting ahead of the curve here before January. Let's get moving type.
Oh, that's right.
That is correct.
Yeah, because I know we were, I mean, you made a good case of why this is cost effective and valuable.
Okay, any additional
No,
questions?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. And then one additional item, and this is a reimbursement contract with the city of Tenino. And I do have a request. I'm not sure if anyone's available. If you could move this item to our agenda today. And just the reason being is that we are having two additional commissioners next week. One of them who is still holding a position in
the city of Tenino, so just to avoid any conflict, I'm just wondering if the board would be okay with moving this item after we hear about it to today's agenda, and if someone would be available from the sheriff's office.
Will be available, yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Mejia, this was actually a consent item. I bumped it down to a department because we thought that might resolve the issue, so I can move this back to a consent item today. and we
Okay,
won't have
so
to-
then you won't have to be
Okay.
available. Okay, so I'll have Robin introduce it and then we'll talk a
Great.
little bit more about it.
Thank you. This item is contract between the county and the city of Tenino to provide law enforcement services between the hours of midnight and 9 a.m. Daily, and the city of Tenino will pay $25,000 for these services in 2024.
Yeah, I believe it's 6 a.m.
6
From
a.m.
midnight to 6 a.m.
I don't know what I
What
said.
the mayor and the chief of the police in Tenino approached us and asked us, because of their staffing issues that they're having, they can't keep somebody on the road 24/7. And so they said, will you guys help us out by going from midnight to 6? Not that we're going to be in town patrolling Tenino, but if there's priority 1 or priority 2 calls, then we will respond and we will handle it. If it's something that can be easily handled, if it's something we have to call Tenino out, which probably isn't that likely that we'd have to do that because we can normally handle any of the priority 1 and 2 calls ourselves. So we'll handle those. The priority 3 and 4 calls, if there's something minor like dog barking or whatever, we're not gonna call a Tenino officer out for that. And we may not even respond, but we'll leave it up to our duty supervisor on who's working that night to say, yeah, go out there and check this out or whatever. And for that, we agreed on a reimbursement of $25,000 for the 2024 year. So that's what we're looking at.
Questions?
Is that a flat, you said reimbursement, is it just a flat 25,000?
It's a flat 25,000 they would pay us.
You guys, I mean,
We're not going hour for hour and charging them call for call. That had been done under the previous administration and it turned out to be just real time consuming to track all that. So
you probably had from that, you had some kind of way to guesstimate or kind of, in order to, if you were tracking in the past, you probably had some idea of what the number ought to be.
Right.
Okay, any additional questions? Okay, so then this will be moved, is our commissioner is okay with moving this item to our consent agenda for today?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 5A from the Commissioner's Office. This is the Thurston County Racial Equity Action Plan.
This item is to, for the board to adopt the Thurston County Racial Equity Action Plan, which we have been working on for a few years now. And Dee Dee is here to tell you about the plan. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. So my name's Dee Ogden, Racial Equity Program Manager. I've spoken with each of you about the plan. The final draft that you see in front of you has some changes just to make the plan more transparent to our workforce and community members. So I laid out what it looks like to operationalize racial equity in Thurston County and what the phases will look like over the next few years. Just so that we can hold ourselves accountable and just, again, be transparent to our community members on what this process looks like. There's also, along with the goals and strategies that have been outlined, there are now performance measures included, again, to add that added benefit of being transparent and how we are measuring the success or any challenges that we face within the plan. So this is, again, a living document, and with your approval next week, the plan will be implemented for 2024, and then we'll provide updates every 6 months, just so that you can get status reports on how we're doing.
Thank you. I have a recommendation for this one as well. That's okay?
Yeah.
Are there any questions?
Yes.
Before my
So,
recommendation?
I know you were hoping to have racial equity council input of some kind, but yet, but then we were still in the process of filling new seats, so I wasn't sure how all that got, like what input you were able to get versus the, you know, the timeline, we're still trying to fill the rest of the seats on the council.
Actually, I think included in the package was a letter of support from the council, and 2 of the members were able to sign it. The changes that were made in the plan, where I was more transparent about each phase of operationalizing racial equity, and then the performance measures, were suggestions that came from council members.
Okay, thanks. And I still have to go through that final draft, so if I have any other questions, I'll shoot you next week.
Okay, so my recommendation is to have this item as a presentation at the beginning of our agenda and
Next week.
and for us to approve it at that time. And the reason why is because it's been a long time coming. The community has been asking a lot of questions about when this will be done. And it gives us also an opportunity to invite the Racial Equity Council, who's been doing work in this, to kind of, you know, I guess, witness the approval of it right at the beginning of the agenda. And maybe other community partners who've been engaged in the process or asking when. I know the League of Women Voters has a section who've been asking about, you know, when we were going to be completing this. So I think just gives us an opportunity to highlight the work that has been done by DV as well as the Racial Equity Council. And understanding that this is a living document and that there will be more changes to come. But
Question actually. You said that the letter of support was signed by 2 of the council members. Was there a reason why the other members didn't sign the letter of support?
I'm still engaging with them. I think it's been challenging to have the council meet as a quorum, just because of scheduling conflicts. And so I'm hopefully between now and next week, I'm able to have additional members sign.
Okay.
But if not, hopefully I can get a reason why.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering if it was an availability thing or if there was something that they didn't support that was leading them to not sign. So it sounds like you'll have more info.
My perception is it's an availability, but I'll do some more digging and find out.
Awesome, thank you.
We do have 5 applications in, I think, for potential appointment to the council as well.
Great.
That could potentially assist with issues that we've experienced with quorum.
I support your suggestion because I think it's really important that the council, assuming that they support the plan, that they feel invested and, you know, ally, whatever the word I'm looking for, the verb, connected and invested in implementation, because we're hoping that they will lead our implementation. So to the extent they feel that they know that we think it's important and they feel like that they have some authorship of a sense or input, and then we will, I think, benefit from that. And hopefully that would be a partial result of Commissioner Meade's suggestion.
is that, are you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Dee.
So Commissioner Wilbur, will Taylor on who, in addition to the council, we should reach out to.
I think just the council. I'm just saying that since it's at the beginning of the agenda, at least we can share it at another time with I don't think, unless commissioners want to invite other guests to this.
No,
You mentioned the League of Women Voters.
I was just saying, I know they've been keeping tabs of this. And so,
give them a heads up.
yeah, we can give them a heads up that it's going to be approved.
Sure.
But, and maybe other groups that DV is aware of. But just something kind of more for the Racial Equity Council, because they are the ones who have been doing the work for this.
Could I also maybe make a suggestion for the presentation, is that often they are verbal in nature, that which kind of disadvantages our folks that may be looking, streaming. if it would be possible to craft a few slides which sort of highlight sort of the main goals of that, and those could be shared during that time.
I'm good with that, are you?
It's a long agenda.
We're already gonna be here.
Yeah, we're gonna be here.
It doesn't have to be long, but
Yeah.
just the visual that it helps those who are watching the meeting that wouldn't otherwise have that unless they've downloaded the agenda.
Davey would be the one presenting it, correct?
You okay with that? Okay. Great, thank you. Okay, community planning and economic development, item 6A, adoption of the 2023 Thurston County Comprehensive Plan amendments.
It's a very exciting item they have on your agenda next week. This is the adoption of the comprehensive plan amendments for 2023. As you know, there are
Monstrosity.
many items included in this amendment, and rather than fumble them, I'm gonna turn to Ashley and allow her to tell you more about this action.
Yeah, this is a very exciting action that the board will be taking, and I'm gonna defer to Maya, who is with us via Zoom, since she's been managing all of these projects.
Thank you, Ashley. Maya Teeple, Senior Planner with Community Planning. This is our once-a-year action to amend our comprehensive plan. And this update for the board includes several items that you've been reviewing for the last several years. So I'll just give a brief summary of the items that are included in this resolution and ordinance. The first is the Olympia Joint Plan that received direction from the board at a 3-0 vote in August to move forward, and that plan includes updates to the plan. It hasn't been updated since the early 2000s, so it's a full repeal and replacement. It includes updated population projections, building intensities, goals, and policies across the plan, and there's also a code amendment associated with that to remove a grocery store requirement in response to a citizen request. The Grand Mount Sub-Area Plan is included in this resolution and ordinance, and again, this is a full repeal and replace. It hasn't had a major update since its original adoption in 1996, so it's a complete refresh of the plan based on new community input. Goals and policies are updated, as well as the population projections and building intensities across the plan. And there are several site-specific citizen-initiated land use requests included with the Grand Mount Sub-Area Plan. And just summarizing the citizen requests that are included, we have 2 rezones that are going from high residential 4 to 16 units per 1 acre to arterial commercial. That's the Steelhammer request and the Fire District request. Those were both voted on by the board at a 2-to-1 vote to move forward on October 9th. And then we have 2 other land use requests for tribal lands, which is going from planned industrial district to arterial commercial, which is just consistent with the current use that's being implemented there. That was a 3-0 vote. And then the Morgan Dental property, that's 1 small parcel going from planned industrial to arterial commercial. Again, a 3-0 vote on that. And there are also code amendments associated with the Grand Mound Sub-Area Plan to incorporate design guidelines from 1997 into our Thurston County Code, with a couple of updates associated to those design guidelines. And both the sub-area plan and the design guidelines received a 3-0 vote from the commissioners to move forward. The next is the POG site-specific land use and zoning request. This is a citizen-initiated request that is included on the official docket as CPA 21. And the board held a public hearing late this fall, and on November 8th, we received a 3-0 direction to amend as requested by the landowner. So that landowner's parcel and the southern adjacent parcel will be going from rural residential resource 1 to 5 to neighborhood convenience commercial. That's roughly 3.5 acres in size total for those 2 parcels. The next item is the Yelm Joint Plan. This is another big update. We haven't updated this plan since 2006, so it is a full repeal and replacement. And the updated version is based on the most recent Yelm Comprehensive Plan, which was updated as recently as 2017. So this went through full review with the City Planning Commission and the County Planning Commission. It went to the City of Yelm Council and then received a review from the board in 2023. We had unanimous recommendations of approval all across the process. So both planning commissions, the City Council, and the Board of County Commissioners directed us to move this forward on November 8th at a 3-0 vote. And then finally is our Lacey Joint Plan update. Again, this is a major update. This plan has not been updated since the early 2000s, so it is a full repeal and replacement, and it's based on the most recent Lacey Comprehensive Plan, which was most recently updated in 2016. Broad brush updates to population projections, building intensities, goals, and policies to bring it up to speed with Lacey's comp plan and the county's comp plan. And there are several components to this Lacey Joint Plan update that are included in this final action. So I'll just summarize those briefly. The Lacey Joint Plan received a 3-0 vote from the board to move forward. And there is also included is a urban growth area expansion to include parkland just north of the Lacey UGA. That received a 3-0 vote from the county commissioners. There are 3 site-specific land use requests for Bressie, MC Construction, and Forster McDaniel properties. Those all received 3-0 votes. I'm happy to summarize those if you'd like, but I will plan to summarize them in more detail on the 28th. And then there's a low-density zone consolidation, which includes some associated code updates. And this brings the county in alignment with what the city is implementing on the ground in city limits. Combines 2 low-density zones that received a 2-to-1 vote from the commissioners to move forward. So all of these items have had at a minimum, a majority vote from the county commissioners to date. And so they are included in this final package. When this comes before you on the 28th, you will see 1 action for adopting a resolution and 1 action for adopting an ordinance, which covers all of the changes that I just covered. And so I'm happy to take questions.
Questions, Commissioner-elect Klaus?
I think I'll have my questions answered tomorrow, so I don't have any now. Thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No, I think Maya did a good job explaining it. We lived it.
Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
Commissioner Edwards summed that up pretty good.
Okay, no questions for me. Thank you. Okay, moving on to Public Health and Social Services, item 7A, Thurston County Developmental Disabilities 2024 through 2025 Community Grant Contracts.
Thank you, Commissioners. This item is the approval of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12 grant awards to various organizations throughout the county using property taxes from both Thurston and Mason County that are intended to support our citizens who have developmental disabilities. You should have received an attachment. Please let me know if you do not have this in your package. But this is the details of how much
I thought we went over that before.
funding source.
Didn't we go over that already?
Yeah.
I don't think
You
I've got
most
it.
likely reviewed this at the time when you were giving approval to move forward with these awards.
Yeah, I think that's right.
If you need it, please let me know. We'll make sure you get a copy. But this assigns, or rather allows for the contracts for January 24 through December of 25. So these are 2-year agreements. Again, in the total $1.5 million, using funds that cannot be used for other purposes. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
And we have Mark on the screen to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Mark, anything you would like to add?
Just that you did, this board did approve the RFP process back in August, and we did receive 12 submissions from 10 different agencies. And the intent of the RFP was to provide innovative solutions that provide additional support and services for people with developmental disabilities in our community. All 12 of the applications were reviewed by a community panel that we organized. We had representatives from Skokomish Tribe, from the Developmental Disabilities Administration, and also one of our peers up in Pierce County. And those are the recommended amounts from that panel.
Thank you. Questions? Commissioner Left-Klaus? Questions? Commissioner Edwards?
No questions.
Questions? Commissioner Menzer?
Question that I ask every year, and since there's a new commissioner present, I'm gonna ask it again. What the heck is millage?
Millage is just another word for property tax levy. It's called a millage, because it is a rate per thousand in property value.
That's just an
all it
extra
is the
piece of
levy.
the property tax? Is it that thing that we were?
No, any property tax levy could be referred to as millage. It's referred to as millage in different sections of state law. What we see though is that, I think that it's been a habit, if you will, for the county to continue to refer to the funding that's collected for developmental disabilities and mental health as millage. But it's just another piece of the property tax.
Yeah, it's the only context that I ever hear that word.
You regularly see it used in this case, but it can be.
Is that the piece that was part of our legislation?
Yes, this is part of what we have asked the legislature to separate out from our general fund levy, because this funding is an offset to what gets deposited into the general fund.
Okay, thank you.
And isn't it always dedicated funding versus what that 1% on property tax goes to the general fund?
Well,
So when they do
we
millage, isn't it generally
calculate
dedicated in a certain way?
it.
Not always?
Well-
No, not necessarily?
No, again, millage is just another word
Okay.
for the property tax levy, whichever one you happen to be talking about. This particular one is dedicated, we have one, as you know, one property tax levy that goes to the general fund. A portion of that is diverted into, developmental disabilities and mental health. A portion is diverted to veteran services. Then we also have the levy for roads, Medic One, Conservation Futures, all except the general fund are dedicated. Just another word for levy.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
I'm happy to use levy in the future if you'd like.
Oh, no, millage is fine.
Thank you.
Okay.
Item 7B is amendment number 17 to the Washington State Department of Health, 2022 through 2024 consolidated contract number CLH 31030. David, is this new money?
Is, I think.
Yes, it is new money.
Go ahead, I'm going to turn this directly over to Director Bain.
Good afternoon. It's your favorite amendment, CONCON. So this is amendment number 17. We're anticipating one more amendment coming on the line before the year is over. This is, again, the consolidated contract with the Department of Health. This is the means by which the department executes or sends all of its funding and contracts to us. So anytime there is a change, there will be reflected in an amendment. That change could be a spelling error correction. It could be millions of dollars being awarded. In this case, we are getting about $200,000 is the bulk of this from a grant from the CDC to LHJs to help with workforce development. This is funding that will support things like training for public health employees, whether it's in their specific field or it's in equity training also, I think is an allowed use for that. This is a new fund source as one-time use. The grant will be, we can tap this grant until June of next year. we are required to submit to the state a series of sort of draft ideas by the end of the year. I think that's it. So this is something new for us. And again, it's going to support the workforce of public health.
Thank you. Questions?
No questions, thank you.
I have a question.
I was like, I have a
Yeah, go ahead.
So David, so this is $280,000 grant for workforce development. And so a plan has to be submitted by the end of the year and spent by next June. Do you have an initial plan to spend this funds?
Yeah, we've been collecting from each of our division leads ideas for training, certifications. So this is spent not on hiring people, but on the resources for our staff. So we do actually have a preliminary list.
And I'll talk to you offline.
Sounds good.
Right, I am curious about the dates in this motion. This says that it's an amendment that is effective January 1 of 2022, which is a closed fiscal year for both the county and the state. And it ends on December 31st of 2023, which is only a few weeks away. So are these dates accurate? And if not, could you explain how it all fits?
If you, at the risk of going in the weeds a little bit, County Manager, if you look into the actual CON amendment, I believe it's, let's see, page 13 of the 30 pages in there. This specific grant actually has a start date of July 1st, 2023 with an end date of June 2024. Like I said, what's confusing about this is that there's every one of our contracts with DOH is listed on here. And so you're seeing parts of our contract that have already been executed, parts that are ending, but the new money you're looking at, really the bulk of that new money is this particular thing. And again, it's page 13 and 14 of the amendment. You'll see that that new one-time funding.
So should these dates be fixed?
Oh, on the AIS. Yes,
Yeah.
they should be.
All
Yes, good catch.
Thank you.
So what will the dates be fixed to?
So this funding in particular is will end on June 30th of 2024, and it started July 1st of 2023.
Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Public Works. Item 8A, ordinance to adopt, provide the revised speed limit schedule for various county roads.
So item A is on your agenda next week, just in case you don't move it this afternoon.
Okay, questions?
No question.
Okay. That was quick, Becky.
I like that.
Item 8B is right-of-way dedication resolution, Little Rock Road and 113th Avenue Southwest Bridge and Intersection Improvements Project, CP number 61320.
Right, and I am going to turn this item straight over to Craig.
I'll take it first, because I want to introduce this topic, because we have not briefed you on this project in a while. So this project is to replace a bridge on Little Rock Road over Bloom's Ditch. This bridge turns 100 years old next year, so it's due for some replacement. This bridge is similar in design to the bridge that failed over Salmon Creek in 2014, I believe. So this is a huge priority for the county to get this bridge replaced. We've secured close to $2 million in funds, federal funding, to replace this bridge. And hopefully we'll begin construction in 2024. And Craig's gonna talk a little bit about the right-of-way.
This is the one though with no rebar in the concrete.
I was trying not to say that on camera. Okay.
Okay, I think I've been hearing about this for a while.
But yes, sir, it is.
Yeah, okay.
So this is a resolution to convert a portion of county property to right-of-way. And it's approximately 0.35 acres of a 1.29 acre parcel that will be converted over from unused county property to right-of-way.
Questions?
Yeah. If you're gonna do a parcel, what's left there that we're stuck with? Where a tree will be growing and somebody will have to go take it down and all that. Can we do something else with that? Like give the whole thing to the right of way, or what are you gonna do the rest of it? When you're splitting a piece of property, right?
Correct. So it is Thurston County owns the entire parcel right now. The portion that's left over, it is planned that there will be future intersection improvements here and we'll use it at that point in time. So it does have future use. If it were not to be used for that, there is the potential future disposal of that through the property management surplus program.
But why not just get rid of it all at one time and let it linger there in the road department until they need it? Rather than two separate actions. You know, you probably won't do another one for 10 years.
Because if we dispose of it at this point in time, we'd have to turn around and buy it back, and that would cost the county.
Oh, no, I mean to Public Works or.
So are you saying just convert the entire parcel into right of way?
Yeah, get it all changed to right away, get it over with, rather than have to come back 10
I
or
guess
20 years from now.
in Public Works, we're trying to get out of the property management business. So what this would allow us to do is that we could go ahead, take what we need for the right of way, for the roadway right of way, and we've been conservative in what we're taking, and then we'll dispose of the rest of it through our property management program.
Yeah, but we don't want to have to buy it back if we dispose of it, do we?
I guess, what I'm trying to tell you is we're quite confident we're not gonna need any more right of way at this location in the future.
Oh, even what are you gonna have flying cars now?
Your guess is as good as mine, but I can tell you, we actually took a little bit extra extra property at this location because if you're familiar with that 113th intersection, it's in a curve, right? So we're actually taking additional property so we can remove some of those trees to improve the sight distance so you can see around that curve. Unfortunately, we've had some fatalities in that curve in the past.
Guardrails, that's always popular.
Guardrails are really tough to maintain. Every time they get hit, they're expensive, and so we'd rather, in this case, if the additional property is
Stop them
available.
from going somewhere or something.
A concrete wall?
You can't do a concrete wall, but you might be able to do a berm. Yeah, I don't know. I hate to think of splitting something.
And bring back PTSD. We had a long battle over guardrails with some citizens.
Guardrails, that was my
You
first
went
year.
there. You had to go there.
I had to go there.
It took me a while, but I'm caught up.
Not the most popular fix.
Okay. Awesome, thank you. Okay, item 8C, lease renewal with Kaufman Real Estate LLC.
Thank you. All right, this item is to extend a lease agreement for storage space that is about 2.5 miles from the Tilly campus, where our stormwater utility stores vehicles, boats, equipment, and supplies. This extends the lease through February of 2028. It begins at monthly payments of just over $2,000 and includes a 3.5% per escalator in the monthly payment each year. And we have Ryan on the screen who can answer any questions that you may have.
Jay, anything you would like to add?
I have nothing to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions?
Yeah, I do have a few questions about this. Would we normally have a map to look at, or is this gonna be money coming in?
No,
Money
this,
going
we're
out?
paying
Right, and so,
for storage space. And it's out of stormwater fees.
So it doesn't affect our general fund.
Nope.
And there's plenty of resources to do it. Is this common rather than acquire the property and do it ourselves, or they maintain it?
It's,
What's the deal there?
if the county had adequate space, I imagine that we would move these things into storage that we owned, but this way it's close to where the employees are, so it makes it convenient for them. And I don't know that this storage facility is up for sale.
Okay.
We worked with our realtor to secure the space and.
That didn't happen, huh? Good.
Yeah,
We have the empty jail.
well,
I'm just kidding.
Empty what?
we could,
The empty jail.
we might be able to use vacant space at Montman, but that's a long way from Tilly.
What did you say is stored here? Vehicles?
Vehicles, boats, equipment,
So it's like a
and
warehouse type of
supplies.
thing?
It's-
Yes, it's warehouse space.
And how much square footage are we getting?
1,875 square feet.
1,875 square feet of warehouse is over $2,000 a month.
I did check in with our facilities manager prior to bringing this forward, just to see if one, if there was any county space available, and then two, to ensure that this was a reasonable rate, and based on our current cost per square footage, he felt it was right in line with current market rates.
Thank you for that, Jay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. No additional questions. We do have a public hearing at 3:30 from Public Works. And this is a public hearing to consider the transfer of portions of county roads to the Confederated Tribes of the Chehalis Reservation.
This is another exciting item to have on your agenda next week, something that the county has been working for a number of years, is the transfer of a portion of county roads to the Chehalis tribe. And I'm gonna ask our team here to.
Team road transfer.
Yep.
So, the 5 roads include Anderson Road, and this is a repeat, but for the sake of Commissioner-elect, I thought I would repeat myself a little bit today. So the roads include Anderson Road, south of US 12, 195th, east of Anderson, 188th between Anderson and Moon Road, and Moon Road, south of US 12, and 183rd west of Moon Road. So these roads all primarily provide access to tribal properties, including the Lucky Eagle Casino and the tribal community. The proposed agreement includes language that the right-of-way transferred to the Chehalis tribe would need to remain in use for road purposes. And it needs to be maintained, and the roads need to be maintained in their current condition or better. These roads are a very small portion of the more than 1,000 miles of roadway in Thurston County in our inventory, and honestly have to compete for priority when it comes to maintenance and emergency response. So this would allow for the tribe to maintain those roads and respond during snow events in a way that meets their needs.
Questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
What feedback have you gotten from the Chehalis tribe regarding the maintenance of these roads? Is this something that they want to do?
They are 100% on board with this. In fact, they have already received permission, the chair has already received permission from I think they call it their business committee, but it's also their council as well, that they can go forward and sign the agreement once receiving approval from the county commissioners.
They ask me about it every time I talk to them.
Yeah.
Where's that road agreement?
It's been going on for
many years, yeah.
20 years, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Today, as of 12/26, we've received 3 comments, 2 in favor, 1 opposed.
What was the opposition based on?
They just said they were opposed.
Okay, thank you.
They're actually gonna be plowed out sooner, it sounds like.
It really is a benefit to the tribe.
And
So-
the, you know, private properties that would be adjoining this, their level of service can shift.
There are some just to say, flesh out that point, there are a small handful of non-tribal members that use this, at least one of these roads to access, so that's why we've just been in contact with those folks and had our ears open for what the issues might be that we need to address.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We're gonna keep going on until commissioners tell me to stop. So I know we have a recording, but I kind of want to get through some of these items that we need to get through today. So next is the review of proclamations and awards and advisory boards and commissions. I want to go to proclamations to advisory boards. Specifically, we have a couple of them that we need to move forward on because we've been kind of cutting fire and the list has grown. And Jamie had done such a great job in catching us up. So, Jamie, passing it to you.
No problem. So for the standing applications for the Agricultural Advisory Committee, Racial Equity Council, and Timberland Regional Library Board of Trustees have been included for your review. Racial Equity Council has forwarded me appointment recommendations for Anthony Draper and Deborah Sue Lee. One of the applicants, Tanzania, has rescinded her application because she ended up applying for the Board of Health position. The TRL is still recommending reappointment of Mary Beth Harrington. The Ag Committee reviewed Johanna's application for reappointment and the two new applicants at their meeting last Thursday. I received a response from the staff contact yesterday morning that their reappointment recommendation is for Mr. Hanna. They provided no further information as to why the other two applicants were not a top choice, just that he's been serving on the committee, and they would like to have him continue to serve. I did receive appointment and reappointment applications for the Agritourism Advisory Committee, Housing Authority, Planning Commission, Solid Waste Advisory Committee, and Veterans Board that have all been included for your review. The applicants are being recommended for appointment and reappointment as requested. And I also received an appointment request for the Chamber's Drainage District number 3 because they had another member resign, and that's been included in your packet for review as well.
Thank you. Questions?
No.
Commissioner Edwards?
No questions.
Commissioner Munzer?
Questions?
Or comments, questions, comments, just,
Yeah, I have comments.
let's go. Okay.
So on TRL, I have information from one of our board members that the board member from Grace Harbor just resigned. And so they're looking at potentially only having 5 members in the new year. 3 of those would be able to pass anything. 2 of those are from Lewis County. There were proposals from Lewis County that were way out of line with last year, that were way out of line with the values of our local representatives. So I'm hoping that one of my seatmates will agree to move Ms. Harrington forward so we can get that through the other counties and hopefully get the board, and she's the incoming president-elect, as I understand, so.
Yeah, so I spoke with Ms. Harrington because I did have concerns in regards to some meetings where I watched where the tribe wasn't invited to that meeting. That really affected them. The Grace Harbor community was very upset. And so I had to talk with her about that specifically. I managed to get on the phone with her last week and have this conversation with her in regards to what my concerns were. There was also another concern in terms of Timberland wanting to write a letter to DNR saying, we need the timber revenue, cut more trees. And I was like, well, that goes in opposition to the legacy forest, work that we're doing. And so I just needed to talk with her, kind of let her know kind of where we are at, right, where our priorities are. And so I think we landed in a good place on kind of where her priorities are and her moving forward into this role as chair. And so after that conversation, I am comfortable with moving forward with Ms. Harrington. So I'm okay with moving forward with her. Commissioner Edwards,
Can we put that on today's agenda?
Can we
It's
move
gotta go
forward?
through 3 other counties, I think.
Yes, yes, we can.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I don't know, I'm curious about the issue you mentioned about Grays Harbor and Tribe and what was her involvement in that?
well, it was just, there was a lot of issues that happened in terms of like communication and some behaviors of staff were kind of honestly uncomfortable to watch. And, you know, it was one of our sitting commissioners was really advocating for it. I didn't see that as much from her, and I wanted to get her perspective on it. Like, where was she on all of this, right? Like, was she like in support of this action that staff was moving forward? Like, what was like her role in it? And she clarified that she did like a lot of background work on this, and that she was probably not as vocal at that meeting, but she had done a lot of work behind the scenes for it. And so I appreciated that, right? Just hearing that perspective from her. But, you know, at that meeting, it was affecting a lot of, a major part of the tribe, and they weren't invited to that meeting, but the council found out about it, and so they showed up to that meeting. But at that point, what happened is the issue had already been resolved, but they still showed up because they didn't know what was happening. They just heard that it was closing down, and they weren't really, there was just not a lot of communication on it. And so from what I hear, that's gonna be one of the priorities, is how to have better communication along, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
On Agriculture Advisory Committee, I understand what the committee recommended. I do not support the reappointment of Mr. Hanna for a whole variety of reasons. I think we have a spectacular candidate in Jennifer Colvin. So I'm going to be strongly recommending, and I'm going to make a motion to appoint Ms. Colvin to that spot. And I've talked to all 3 of the folks that are up for appointment.
I'm good with that. As far as Mr. Hanna goes, I'm going along with I know there's been, I guess I say there's been some issues in the past, but they seem to think that they want him back on the committee, and we got some communication about that. So I'm gonna go with that group's recommendation, but I'm also very, very good with
How many seats do we have open on that committee?
Just one.
Just his.
Just one.
Oh, there's only
one.
one right now?
One farmer seat.
Oh, I thought we were up for, gonna have.
We have to choose between
No,
these 3.
So you have a choice to make here.
And what wasn't transmitted from the committee was that they did have a motion to move forward to the board's consideration all 3 of the applicants, as, but that did not actually then pass or prevail. And so when they did take a vote on making the recommendation, the person who made that motion to forward all 3 is the one that abstained from the ultimate vote. Just for additional background information.
All right, so Commissioner Mensah has made a motion to approve Jennifer Colvin for the one open position.
So I'll second that. I watched the interviews that the Ag Advisory Committee did, and I was thoroughly impressed with Ms. Colvin's presentation.
I think she'd be great.
Yeah, she was pretty great, and you know, I think that the voice she would bring in is kind of just what we need in the Ag Advisory Committee, and so I was really impressed with her interview.
And the 3rd one I recruited, so I mean, that's how impressed Ms. Colvin was.
Okay.
So I think Mr. Neth in the future could be somebody we look at, but.
Great.
So we have 3 thumbs up for Ms. Colvin, and we'll move her onto today's agenda as well.
Thank you.
I would also like to move forward the Agritourism Advisory Committee appointment for George Sharp.
Yep.
Yep, okay, that one was easy.
And then we have applications for the Planning Commission. I believe we're gonna be making those. I've asked the board to come up with those in December, but I guess I'll just let the board know that Derek Day is going to be my appointment for my district.
Derek Day.
Yeah.
I have an at-large appointment, which is a continuing, Joel Hansen, but I have still the only person of mine that lives in my district doesn't want to continue. So I'm still actively recruiting for an in-district appointment myself. But Thomasine, has Mr. Hansen, or Jamie, has Mr. Hansen sent in his
I
application?
haven't received an application from him yet. Kevin, I think Pessinger, I think is how you say his last name, sent me one this morning. He is one that is gonna be changing districts when we move to the 5 commissioners here shortly. I believe he's going to District 5, if I recall correctly. The 2 that are on your list right now are both still staying in the district that they are currently in when we move to 5 commissioners. But I don't have another one yet from Joel.
Well, okay, I'll take care of that. But my other 2 are not in my district. They're living now in District, 2 of mine live in District 4 now. One of whom I'm gonna appoint as my at-large, one I can't. And then my District 3 one wants to be removed, so, or not to be reappointed, so that's where I'm at. But we each get to pick somebody that lives in our district and somebody, and then a second one anywhere you want. And you appoint, we get to say yes or no, but we usually respect the commissioner's appointment nomination. So, you can start poking around for folks that live in your district. And you may have an existing planning commissioner that's now in your district, your decision. You might wanna have a meeting with that person, like Mr. Pessinger, I think, will fall into your district.
And I'll have.
Mr. Nelson may wanna talk to Commissioner Fournier, because he would be now somebody that he could appoint if he wanted to.
Yeah, and I'll have Kevin's application next week for review as well, so if you want to take a look at it, it'll be visible.
Thank you.
And I'm good with Mr. Helderson.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Day, so you're just giving us a heads up?
Yeah,
we're gonna be-
Mr. Day is gonna be my appointment for my district.
So are we
No, we're
going
not.
to hold these?
Yes.
Yes.
We're gonna
Okay,
hold
good.
these off. We're gonna be having a conversation in December.
Right.
And then at that moment, I've asked commissioners to bring forward their appointments and then we can move forward with those.
Right.
Just to give some time for recruitment for some of us.
Right. How about the Racial Equity Council?
The Housing Authority, the Housing Authority of Thurston County, Aaron Kitugwa? Is a reappointment. Is there thoughts on that one?
I'm okay with it.
I think he's been out there as the only applicant for a while, and I think he's I'm fine with that at this point.
Okay, so we'll move him on to the agenda.
Okay, and then the Racial Equity Council, there are 2 recommendations, Anthony Draper and Deborah Lee.
And that's the only 2 seats we're gonna fill?
You have up to 15 seats, I believe, on that council.
I thought we were starting off smaller for some reason. Why did I think that?
Right, I think the initial implementation of the Racial Equity Council was starting with 7, and once 7 were achieved, moving on to a larger council, but.
They have had trouble with, they haven't even had their 7.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have a good crop. I mean, unless the councils thought that the other 3 weren't a good fit, which.
And one withdrew.
That was, I've already removed her.
They're already
You've
removed.
removed her. So these 5 are potential candidates.
I mean,
Dee Dee said she's available too, she can pop on.
She coming in on Zoom to tell
And
us?
she's gonna pop downstairs on the Zoom. She just messaged me, so she can provide.
Okay,
some
so while
feedback.
she's doing that, let's move on to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. Has Aaron Robertson been reviewed by SWAC?
Yes, they actually have an AIS in, so I can just easily have it today.
Okay, are commissioners ready to move forward with that one?
With which one?
Aaron Robertson from the Solid Waste Advisory Committee?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, and then there's a Veterans Board Advisory, the Veterans Advisory Board, Brandon Frawley is a reappointment. Is that the,
Yes, they're recommending reappointment as requested as well. And the one for Chambers would just kind of be like a rubber stamp so that they can get a quorum.
okay. And then Chambers Drainage District number 3?
I'm good with it, but
Okay, so-
I'm looking over to my seatmate.
No.
Okay, so then move forward on those two. Okay, so then going back up to the Racial Equity Council.
So our question was, we got 2 recommendation to, and did the council not think that others were a good fit? Or was it just they thought they were only supposed to choose 2, but we can go with more? I mean,
The council is aware that they could select all of the candidates. There was discussion and a little bit of disagreement on what that process looks like, if they just accept everyone who applies, or if they have a kind of more of a due process. I did, in our meeting about the applications, I did recommend that they take all of the members so that we can avoid issues with establishing a quorum, but they chose to proceed a little bit more slowly. And so I think it will take a while to get a quorum again to discuss recommendations for additional applicants.
Well, I don't know, maybe I'm gonna be too blunt, but is there anything wrong with just going ahead and confirming all of these
yeah,
folks?
like, do you think
Get it rolling?
that's kind of, do you think we'd be stepping on the council's toes in some way if we were to just?
No, in reviewing all of them, they had no issues with any of them.
Okay.
Oh, well, then let's do
Then
it.
let's just move, if they're quorum issues, then yeah, let's move forward with all. Which one was the one that's applying for the Board of Health that?
Tanzania.
Okay,
They're
She's
already
not on the
off.
list
and they're
either.
already off,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, so then, yeah, let's move forward with all of them, since quorum has been a big situation, and,
They have a lot of work to do, and
yeah.
I know one of the folks I recruited myself, so I was, hopeful to see him included, and so this is, applications look good to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you will see a lot of advisory members moved on to today's agenda.
Yeah, but we needed to do that because we needed to
Yes.
clean this up, so thank you, Jamie.
Can I ask one last question? The prosecuting attorney's office did put in a request this morning to see if you guys would be open to doing a proclamation at your December 12th meeting to proclaim December 27th as Marshall's Day to kind of as recognition of service animals. It's Marshall's birthday, and they would like to bring him in on the 12th to accept that proclamation if y'all are willing to.
Absolutely, yes.
I figured it wouldn't be a hard push, but I told him I would ask. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
See his hot dog outfit for
Yes.
Halloween.
Work on getting him a bar top.
okay, under commissioner items, which items do we need to discuss?
Well, we've already taken care of the meetings ordinance. We could push the status of the EEOP to next week. The budget development update is just quickly in 2 minutes.
It's just to speak to the fact that we have been through the budget process. I'm sorry, excuse me, I've got a little cold, so I hope you can hear me. So just to speak to the fact that we've been through the budget process, and on November 20th, which was on Monday, so yesterday, we did put in the Olympian, the public notice for our public hearings scheduled for December 4th and December 5th. And there will also be another publication on November 27th, that's next Monday, that meets our RCW requirements, as well as the budget book was published or posted on our website on Monday, as far as RCWs are considered too. And that we will be having final deliberations the day after the public hearings, so that is the 6th, with the certification of the property tax on the 12th and adoption on the 15th of December. So it's just an update on the status on where we are with the budget.
Yep, and you had said that there would be a follow-up meeting regarding the public safety sales tax. We are proposing that either we do that on November 30 or on December 6th.
Okay.
So that's the update on the budget. Your planning session agenda for November 30 is in your packet in draft form, and you will see it's overloaded. So I would appreciate the feedback of the board on items that can be delayed until January. You don't need to do that this moment, but please take a look at those. New commissioners, of course, will be here on the 28th. The legislative priorities also in your packet. I appreciate the comments that we received back from Commissioner Mintzer. Those were all incorporated. So I would ask the board's approval of this as your legislative priorities so that I can begin to distribute these to other elected officials.
Thank you. We did receive a request for our legislative agenda to include meat processing facility under our legislative agenda for this year. I'm not sure if commissioners received that request.
I don't think I
I have
did,
not seen it.
but I'm all for it. I thought there was a partnership thing
Yeah,
developing with Pierce County.
So it's to adding a meat processing facility funds at the Ag Park so it would go under shared legislative issues. And so I believe,
Just add a sentence there.
yeah,
What, yeah.
so a meat processing facility, and it would be,
I'd like to have our federal people know about it too, because they're gonna look at, USDA is gonna be able to help us a little.
Work
so,
on that.
yeah, so I met with Robin yesterday and I have asked her to, for us to meet with the EDC, our federal lobbyist, Jenica, and kind of discuss what a federal appropriation request would look like, especially since Pierce County has been advocating for this as well. And I will reach out to Pierce County Council and see if they would be willing to, if we're to submit an application, write a letter in support of something like this. That way it would look like a more of a regional request rather than just us.
And I just wonder if we couldn't also with the EDC, with that new, what's the name of our new conglomerate with the EDC we're putting together for the federal side of things?
Oh, it's that.
Economic Development
Yeah.
District.
Yeah.
Yeah, that district, that we couldn't also get that group, make sure they're aboard, because it'll service that whole area.
Right.
And it'll give us a little more asking power with Congress, I think.
So just for clarity, if I may, Commissioner Mejia, what would be the ask of our state legislature?
I will get you the exact language, but it would be for, do you have, no, okay. So for funds for adding a meat processing facility at the Ag Park.
So for funding, we'd be looking for.
But
state
for a
funding.
regional facility located in Thurston County, unless somebody else comes up with a better spot, we've got a spot.
So it wasn't added last year. This was on our agenda last year. We removed it because it was, at that time, we were currently doing the feasibility study. And so therefore we were like, well, we have to get the feasibility study done first before we go in and make a request. So now that the feasibility study is done, and there is still no other location or business in any of the surrounding counties ready to move forward with creating a facility. That's why they believe the request is good to ask, to make that request now.
Who's recommending that?
And this is Aslan Mead from the Thurston, from the Economic Development Council.
Aslan is asking,
Yeah.
could you please forward that?
Yes.
And the other piece of that is that federal group that we're gonna become eligible for funding from.
And you're good with adding this to our legislative agenda for this
Well,
year,
to
Commissioner?
our shared legislative agenda is what, isn't that what we're talking about?
I mean, I think that I am. I'm always curious about how, like, we had, like, at one point on our list, we want money for our elections stuff.
Right.
And then we didn't get anything out of it, and we removed it, I think, just because it was kind of like, you can ask for it, but what does it connect to that the legislature is gonna bite on? I guess that's my question here. Is this something that is likely to interest the legislature versus just give us money for something we want? Like,
In a,
how are we gonna plug
They
this
gave us
in?
money
Right.
for the park down there
In a short
already. They've
session.
started seed money.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not against it. I mean, if it's a good use of this real estate on this one pager, then, you know, I know something we've been trying to position ourselves for.
I think it's just, since it is such a big regional issue in terms of the lack of meat processing facilities regionally, and then having a feasibility study that kind of backs that up as well. And so I think that's why last year we removed it, because we were like, okay, we're just gonna be talking about it, but we don't have really anything to show.
And then
for
in
it.
terms of its placement at the ag park, is that, I mean, I don't know what the footprint of something like this looks like, if it's inconsistent with the other types of activities that are happening at the ag park. It sounds like I mean, I don't know, meat processing sounds like it could be a very different vibe, if I put it that way, than some of the other activities that I understood the ag park was gonna be supporting. So I mean, I've never heard of this one just before.
They actually have it in the,
In the
it's actually in the
long-range plan.
plans, yeah, and I believe it's, they've been in conversations with the Colvin Farms.
So they have the land there.
Yeah, and Jenica, I think you have more information on this, but if you would like to. But it is something that they've been working on, and I'll pass it on to you so you can share
I
more
think
information.
the latest update I have is that they're working with City of Tenino to ensure that they have proper zoning at the ag park to allow for this type of activity. I think that they are still looking into what that type of development would require in terms of layout, square footage, all that feasibility work still needs to be done.
So is it right to move forward to the legislature?
Sorry?
If it sounds like there's a lot more work to be done just to define it, is it ready to move forward to the legislature as a legislative ask?
I'd probably need to confirm with Aslan, but they don't have feasibility work done yet, and so I still think that would be a reasonable next step. But they are looking for partnership and resources to complete the feasibility piece.
Sometimes it's getting it on the train, on the tracks.
A lot of times you
To
have to, it takes at
ask
least
3 or
3
4
times to
times,
get something in front of the legislature to get it passed, so.
Well, but
It's
they
not a bad
have
idea, but-
given us that seed money to get that thing going down there. So, I
Right.
mean, they already know that this is being developed, and and we've got the new federal regional district to work with. So I think it's right time to move on it.
I think we got a better chance at
We have a better
federal
chance of,
funding.
yeah, right.
I believe with federal funding too, just because we've been talking with the congressional delegates as well as quite a bit about the feasibility study. I know every time they've come down, it's one of the items I've talked to them about, so.
Okay, so you're forwarding the information. I'll add a very short blurb at the bottom about the meat processing facility at the ag park, and maybe I could work with you, Jenica, on getting some language around that.
You could probably slice down this language on the parks. I bet you could.
Still fit it. Oh, yeah, it's all gonna fit.
Park Avenue
Sure.
item.
All right, so I'll add that, and then we're getting short on time to get this out to folks, so we'll
I
get
will,
it distributed.
I'll work with you.
All right.
Okay, anything else on here?
I think that covers everything that I had added. I would hope to give you an update from the salary commission. But that can, I think we've received an email from Ruth Elder on the vote that they took last night. Yes.
Are you telling us?
Oh, well, you'd like to hear it.
thought it was a secret.
So the.
Oh, you haven't heard yet?
Oh, no, I know I sat through
okay.
the meeting last night.
Oh, okay.
They have set a salary for, here, I've got it right here. The Board of County Commissioners next year of $139,560. That's 5.8% increase in your salary. Then they are recommending for the sheriff, $174,360. That's a 7% increase for the sheriff. The assessor, clerk, coroner, and treasurer are set the same as commissioners, or recommended to be the same as commissioners. They have recommended that the auditor's salary be increased by 7% to $141,132 a year. And then the prosecutor, they have recommended as equal with Superior Court judges, which is in accordance pretty much with state law, to be $223,908. So we'll prepare a resolution for December 12th, and I'll have that on your setting agenda next week for discussion.
Okay, any questions, comments?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So with that, any other items we need to have addressed today? No?
I think we're out of time.
Yeah, it is 12:59. Thank you for hanging on and getting through a lot of these items. We're adjourned.